I mean, we could talk about this some other time. Like eating booty. Like definitely, if you're a man, eat someone's booty. So let's jump into it. Would you take your, if you're straight, I guess, right? If you would you take your wife's last name if you got married? Well, why don't you use introductions? 'Cause I'm sure what everyone has to say about this. Start with you, Salsa.
Sure. So, real quick. So, this first entered my mind, this specific question, when I was dating somebody who was significantly more woke than I ever was and was on a fast track in her career, right? Where she was much more attached to her last name. And it kind of made, like, when we talked about just very briefly, lightly about getting married, she's like, would you make me take your last name or whatever? I'm like, yeah, of course. Why the hell would I not? And then she's like, well, then she started explaining her reasoning. And then it finally made me like, look at, do I need to change like, why am I attached to my last name? And it made me realize the only real reason why I'm attached to the last name is because it's comfortable for me. And I wasn't primed so much as a child that your name is one day going to change. Right. So it's just like tradition, more or less. And then it made me realize it's like that, like I'm more or less a fan that tradition
No.
And then the internet took him out because he was saying too much.
That's what happens when you support tradition.
That's what
It's
happens.
because he's not in a robe.
Yeah. There he is. There he is.
Hey, he's back. Welcome back.
no idea what's going
Salsa.
Hello?
You lagged out so hard we didn't hear like the last 10 seconds we didn't hear.
All right,
So you
all right.
said
Nothing.
you were holding it onto it for tradition, and like you weren't primed to do so, and then after that it's pretty much gone.
Right. And so, okay, so I was holding on to tradition because I wasn't primed my whole life. And I realized I'm a believer that if tradition is the only reason why you're holding on to something, it's probably not a good reason. Right. So I needed to open up my mind and I need to expand like a little bit. And I was like, if she has the expectation her last name can change, the same thing can be applied to me. So if I ran into somebody, like my last name is pretty, it's pretty basic. I'm not going to say it, but it's like the equivalent of like a Hernandez type shit. Right. So it's like there's nothing really special about it. The line dies with me though, right? But does that really mean anything? No. And I was like, and so if I ran across somebody who had a unique last name or a last name that they were really attached to, much more than so myself, I'm like, this is going to be my life partner. This is the person I'm supposed to be with the rest of my life. I can't make this compromise for them. I expect them to do the same, but society primed them to do the same. I can't do the same for them. Like, that's not cool. Right. And so like, yeah, it's like, I'm right now, my relationship is not primed for my last name is going to be the same if we ever get married. But if I meet somebody else and it does change, it's like, it's not gonna, just the whole tradition thing kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Okay. All right. So problematic pan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar to New Salsa. I would prefer to keep my last name. But it's by no means a deal breaker. I will say I completely disagree with him that just because something's tradition isn't a good enough reason to keep it. I think you do need a reason to drop it. I think that traditions are around sometimes for reasons that we don't understand. Now, that's not always the case, and this seems like a pretty prime example of when it's probably just an artifact of patriarchal culture and everything. But I would definitely prefer to keep my last name. It's very unique. There's like I think 5 families in the U.S. with the same last name as me, so I like to keep it around. It's cool, but it's definitely not a deal breaker. But I would prefer to keep my last name in marriage.
Okay. Hi.
Sorry about that. I forgot muted myself. Yeah, this one's a little bit weird for me because surnames are always these kind of a weird thing for me. But in a general sense, is that I wouldn't care too much about changing. My whole thing was largely that just keep your damn name. Don't change it. That's kind of the thing that I've always been more on. So if you marry into somebody, you keep your last name, and maybe if you're the woman, then the girls get named after you. That you're the guy, then the guys get named after you. But in a general sense here, it wouldn't offend me that much. My name is very unique. There's only 2 families on the planet that have my last name. So I mean, it's just one of those deals where I guess I have the uniqueness factors, but no one can fucking pronounce it anyway. So it's just one of those deals where I wouldn't be offended to change it. And I'll open it or close out with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Amanda, I'm gonna have you last. All right. Yeah.
Boo.
That's that's what we
Boo.
do. We silence women. All right. Moving on. Let's go to the Turk.
So yeah, I believe I think we were talking about like what is tradition? Why do we do tradition? And I think keeping a last name is not necessarily as important as some of the more, attributes as to what is your character that's being withheld or uphold with tradition. So, if my wife decided to not take my last name, that's her choice. She doesn't have to do it. It's at the end of the day, it's a name. It doesn't really matter. If we want to expand the conversation to the kids, I think it'd be up to the parents what name they should take and equal say should happen. But as far as like labeling a person by a last name, Prime, how many people call you by your last name on a day to day basis? It's not that really important nowadays, but it all depends on what kind of tradition we want to uphold.
Does
Okay.
Prime even know his first name anymore?
Last name.
Oh,
Or first?
any of them.
His last name is
Prime
Cayes.
last name.
Yeah, it's like Prime first name, K's last name.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. I don't know how you guys missed it.
Okay.
Kai, not K's. Kai.
It's Kai.
It's
Yeah,
Kai?
It's Kai.
My
yeah.
bad. I'm
Jeez,
sorry.
you've been on this
I'm
panel like
Kai.
so many times, dude. Come on.
Yeah. All right, Xana.
Oh dear. Oh no. Okay. So I actually have two last names due to marriage and stuff. So when it comes to that, it really depends. My last name is unique. It really depends on the relationship between me and that person that I have decided. Yes, we are forever friends. But I really don't actually care. So if my significant other asks me if I'm going to take their last name, I will probably say, well, it really depends on your family. If your family's shit, we probably shouldn't go with it. We should go with mine. But if yours is better, if similar in stature of friendliness towards us as individuals, why don't we just take both of our last names and combine it? So both sides are represented in the lineage. So even though our kids are going to have 4 whole fucking names and writing checks is going to be a bitch and a half, but what the fuck ever. It's job security for somebody,
Oh boy.
especially in the tax department.
All right. We're gonna dig into this stuff a little later. All right, study mate.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I think that like it should just be conversation. I think honestly, the thing that matters most, I don't really care about tradition. I don't really care about any of that other stuff. It's just about how the name like sounds. I think my sister kind of went off that, and it's like I don't know if the name sounds fine, then like I don't really care if it's the fathers or the spouses or like the woman's. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of whatever vibes.
Imagine that logic, though. I don't want your last name. It sounds funny.
I mean, I think that's perfect logic. Actually.
When you I don't know if you mix different like cultures together, like some of the names just sound like really like just random and then kind of put together. My sister, my sister's Chinese.
Oh no! Well, finish up what you're saying. Then I want to go.
Yeah, I was just saying like my sister, like we're Chinese, so like we have I have my dad's Chinese name, and then she married her husband is Pakistani, and like I don't know the Chinese like first name with like the Pakistani like last name. It just kind of doesn't really. So she kept her name, like she kept her maiden name because it just didn't really sound that good. So she just kept it. Yeah.
Amanda, I guess there's 3 people. Chuck, you're married, right? Or formerly married?
Why would you think that I'm divorced, dude?
I don't know. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you told me that you were only. Oh, it's fine. But anyway,
single father syndrome. Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Well, anyway. But we have 3 people who have experienced marriage, and Amanda is one of them. So, Amanda, what's your opinion on all this?
Yeah, yes, I took my ex-husband's last name, and I would encourage any female woman in chat not to do that. I don't find much utility in it, and it's been a huge hassle. I'm published under my married last name. I have legally on some of my documentation is my maiden name and my married last name. It gets extremely confusing. If you want to change your last name, you have to, at least in Iowa, you have to send in your ID and wait 2 weeks for it to come back. So you go 2 weeks without a license. So yeah, you get pulled over, you need alcohol, cigarettes, anything, you don't have an ID for it. I also think that not changing your last name is based as fuck, because having to take a man's last name is part of the patriarchal society in which that men used to own women. And so yeah, I'm against it.
Okay. All right. So then it comes down to there's a few things here. But before I address what Amanda said, so these hyphenated names, as Xana was saying, they kind of like grow out of control. So like he was going to combine like one hyphenated last name with another hyphenated last name, and it, like you see like how that would become a bit unwieldy, right? Yeah. Okay, now they're deafening themselves.
Yeah, I was fixing my audio because my microphone was starting to pick up my fan for some reason. No, actually, the thing is the reason why my name is still hyphenated is because it would cost me a lot of money to fix all of my shit.
Ah, okay, all right.
So it cost me at current moment. Had I done it when I got my green card, it would have been like $230. But now it's about $5,000.
Saucy, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I just wanted the comment interesting on what like Amanda said when in regards to not encouraging anybody or like having two separate last names like within a family, like, and because like in particular in the response I gave in the text where I was saying like I personally want the family to have the same last name. I want it. I don't care who it comes from on which side, right? But I want the parents to have the same last name and the kids to have the same last name as the parents. I feel like this is a like like, and maybe this is the appeal to tradition thing, right? But like this is like we're here, we're locked in together, we're one another, like we're coming at this as one whole thing. We don't have to answer any questions like as far as like why is it hyphenated, why is it not. I knew somebody who had a hyphenated last name like as a woman, and people talked to her frequently about it. Like it popped up in conversation way too frequently for my comfort, right? And I'm not her, right? Of like, oh well, you didn't do it. It's like that seems like way too much of a hassle. As well as like the like you're gonna come pick up your child, and like one that doesn't even answer like the child's last name. Like what is it gonna be, right? Is it going to be another hyphen of the two parents, right? Which is, a possibility. But then it's like how does that look? Like, what is that child's like experience explaining
neither
that? I don't know.
have my last name, and they have two separate last names, and there's literally been absolutely no issue whatsoever. I can understand like wanting to have that family unit, but I think that's still based out of a mindset within we live in a society meme, right?
Well, yeah,
Like,
of course,
what's
but
the
like we
utility
have to
behind
operate
it?
within it.
Like, I guess what's the like? I don't see any utility.
So
behind it.
like this is gonna be the thing, right? Because my parents had the same last name. Like I had my stepfather came into my life when I was fairly young. He had a last name. I did not take his last name. His last name was very clearly not a Latino last name because he wasn't a Latino person, right? And so like I remember bumping into like a small like problem, not enough to like redo a whole system, right? But it's like, hey, your last names don't match. What the hell's going on here? But even still, like a good childcare facility is still going to reference who, if you're on the list to pick the child up anyway. So like that's not really that warranted. But it's just like I'm imagining it in conversations, and like if you're saying it's different, then it's different. Anybody who has the hyphenated last name when saying it's different, I'll believe you over like what I'm forming in my head. But I'm just imagining like it's going to be slightly of a hassle of having a frequent conversation, and it's something that would personally like annoy me enough to get rid of this thing that doesn't mean anything. Like what is the consequence? Monetary, right? I'm in a position where I can pay it. I don't care, right? And if it's like this is my wife, both of us are salsa, right? I feel like this is strong. Or if for her, both of us are, I don't know, Maria or whatever her last name happens to be, right? I'll take it. But it's just like, it's the presentation and it's the force together because we live and operate in that society. To me, that rings, it has some value, not too much, but enough for me to say bump the last name. Like,
Amanda.
I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
the
Amanda
only
and then
hassle
Turk.
the only hassle I've came into is what name to put on my welcome sign when you walk through my front door. Welcome to the what house.
Let's go to Turk and then Pan.
Yeah, so going back to what Salsa was saying, it's like the entire point of a last name was to like track down who you were and where you came from, right? Because you go and talk to some Hernandezes, right? It's like where did these Hernandezes come from? And you try and track it back as far as you can. Today, it's like you can go to ancestry.com and find out where you came from, who your people were, and you can start, and this is where you are. So it's like you can either continue the lineage that you were liking, or you can decide, I don't want to take this lineage anymore. I want to go with my married person's lineage and then keep going that way. Or I'd even pose to the panel, why can't we make up our own last names and start our own new
Dynasty.
branch? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're just a number on a spreadsheet. No one gives a shit what your last name is.
I was gonna do
That's
that,
an interesting suggestion. Let's go to Pan and then Amanda, and then
Yeah, I
Tiberius.
mean, I agree with some of the people on this panel. I don't think, well, it's not a horrible thing, but I would want to have the same last name as the person I married, solely, if not for tradition's sake, because what are we going to give the last name of the kid? I feel like it would be unfair to give the kid either of the parents' last names, because it kind of says that, hey, it might not mean anything, but it kind of has the implication, hey, this person is more of your parent. And I think that's it's important to have like at least the appearance of equality, just so you can feel like you're an equal parent, I guess. I feel like I'd be much more willing to take the female's last, or my partner's last name, than I would be willing to have separate last names. I think that could create some problems.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's your turn, anyway, right? And then we'll go to Ty.
Yeah, so the Turk mentioned about like lineage and stuff, and I just want to point out that back in the day when a woman took a man's last name, her lineage was wiped out pretty much. So yeah,
The
there's
buff
that.
was weaker. Did not.
Ty, then Steady Mate.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add there to what Turk was saying was that used to be actually pretty common. Most of the royal houses of Europe, as an example, were made up names. House de Capet. You had, excuse me, the Lannisters. Or not Lannisters. Sorry, that's Game of Thrones. I'm thinking of, excuse me. I apologize. Just play excuse me, Crusader Kings 2, and you will see a whole bunch of names that you will never see before and ever since. And that is because these names are largely made up. A lot of them do have something to do with like the place or a given title, but to a large degree, if you look at most last names, they're either placeholders from way back when or they're completely made up. Relative to whatever. Yeah, we can totally do that again. That's not off the table.
So it all depends on the tradition you want to hold to, right? Because I come from Scandinavian descent. My grandparents had a last name. Whenever they had a son, they appended some string of text to make a new last name.
String of text.
Then string of text. And that's where we're at in society. It's like it doesn't really matter. But if you want to hold to the culture and the tradition, it could be important to you. So it's like, what's important to you as a individual, as a couple, and as a family unit? Do you stick to the tradition? Do you stick to your political alignment, or do you just say, this is my family, and you go with that? And that's where, like, pick your poison. At the end of the day, you are a number on a spreadsheet. You are a social security number if you're in the States. No one really cares.
But people do care. I mean, like, this is why it's even a question, right? Because people actually do care. Like,
But from a person's perspective, like I don't care what your last name is, right?
I see what you're saying.
steady mate.
I feel like names though,
Mm.
like are somewhat ground our identity. And I
Yeah.
think like taking
Does
someone
it?
else's last name. So yeah, it totally does. I mean, even like I said, I have things that are published under my maiden last name, and people knew me from my maiden or my married last name. And so like yeah, like I've like when it's like when I like put on like my resume and stuff of the things I've published, then it's obvious that I've had a divorce and there's all that.
So I guess there's.
It's steady
Oh,
mate's
I'm sorry.
turn, and then we'll go to you, Salsa.
Yeah, my only thing is like I think it is a little bit so. My only thing is I think it is a little bit more. Now that I'm like thinking through it, I think it is a bit more important than I would probably at first had thought. Like I guess when you think of like an actress or something, in terms of like having like to your point, Smash. Like if you think of like an actress who goes by their maiden name like their whole career, and then all of a sudden get married, and then just like wipe out half of their name, like Angelina Jolie goes to Angelina like Pitt. That would be pretty weird, and I feel like that is something that like, although traditionally, yes, that is like the like right thing to do in Western culture, like I feel like that would be super weird to just kind of like switch up half of your branding like on a dime like that. And I guess that's something that I've never thought of because I'm a man. So
Yeah, and that's why like a lot of movie stars and singers and stuff don't change their last name because their name is part of their identity.
But that's
totally.
that's a branding statement. Do you continue the brand forever and your kids have to live to your brand? That seems
There,
pretty short-sighted.
I think putting it as like just a brand is kind of dumb. Like people know you based on your name. It's not just like a brand.
well, I mean,
Right.
Well,
like,
like, no,
just
like,
sticking
I
with
was-
the example of entertainment, like this is their livelihood, right? Like how, your brand is like everything when you're
Your name is your
like,
brand.
potentially. Yeah, exactly. So I
But
mean,
so the Jolies
I mean that
that come from
that's a cute
Angelina,
saying.
but the Angelina Jolie offspring that are Jolies, are they Angelina Jolie or are they something else or someone else? Are they the brand
Well,
of Jolie or are they
Uh,
something different?
They're whatever
I think that's
They're
two
whatever they
different
want.
things.
decided. Yeah, I agree.
I
your
think
personal
like
brand is your first and last name, right? So if
But-
unless you name your kids Angelina Jolie, like they're not gonna have problems creating their own identity.
No, but I think it's two different things. Like you getting your last name overwritten by your partner when you get married versus what you name your kids. I think that's two different things. I think that I think it's a bit weird for like someone, if you are in that industry, to just like, get your brand kind of overwritten. Whether you give that to your kids, I'd probably agree with you guys that like that's a bit more flexible because they're a completely new person.
But that's
but
the important thing here.
So
Well,
like
well, the top process.
I'm gonna comment like a little bit on this one because this is like a little bit interesting. I don't have anything published, right? Like you, Amanda. So it seems to be like your identity is like more tied to your original last name because it's tied to your wealth, it's tied to your income, or a parts of it, or people can find you, where it carries more weight. Like for me, believe it or not, the name that you picked that everybody has in here to me means so much more than your actual birth name because this was the name that you picked. This was the name that you picked, that you established for yourself and that you created, right? And so with that being said, like it weighs so much more. So like the brand name stuff, when we talk to actresses and actors and everything, like that has a different income, right? Or like that has a different motivation for the reason why they keep it is because it could just simply like, I need everybody, like Ariana Grande recently got married, unfortunately. So everybody could be like, hey, right? I'm glad Prime caught that. So like everybody can be like, I don't want to look for Ariana Stevenson or whatever her husband's last name is. It makes sense for Ariana Grande to keep it, right? But like the vast majority of us don't run into that problem. Don't keep that same one, right? So I would say like as like that same usage being used, like names for unless you are being referenced and researched and used as like somebody to call back on. Name changes are fairly common, especially in the workplace, and it doesn't really like change much. And I don't necessarily lose like, oh well, I need this unless if your career is not focused on your name, right? Where like people are going to reference you and look you up through that, and over time, I don't think that's really a good reason to keep it or like
But
to use that.
most people, like when they get married, they do continually form their identity. I had no idea that I was going to be published under my marriage last name. I had no idea that I'd be tied to that or that it would even matter until I got divorced. So I think it's something that you should always consider because you have no idea where your life's going to take you.
Well, you were published before though, right?
No, I'm published under my married last name.
No, right. You
And
were
I
public. Oh, you were so oh, okay. So you were published under your married last name, and after you separated, I'm assuming then you went back to your maiden name, and then you got stuff republished. Is that
well,
the
I
way it
mean,
works?
I have stuff published under both last names, but
Mhm.
that's where it gets kind of annoying and confusing because it's not really tied
Mm.
together in any place, and why would it be, right?
Could you have is a what is it called? Like a pen name a possibility?
So yeah, I have a pen name as well, like in between the divorce because I had no idea what I was going to do with my last name. I didn't know if I was going to keep it
Hmm.
because my son's last name is my ex's last name. So I'm like, do I keep it for utility here for school purposes and things like that? But yeah, I just think that most people are still forming their identity when they get married. A lot of people get married in their 20s and 30s, and to think that our identity is not continually forming after that point is silly.
Yeah, I don't think it's not necessarily continually forming. I just think that the idea of like your identity is like 100% like attached to
name.
like your name. That's the part I'm
Exactly.
not necessarily sold on.
I mean, but it kind of
Yeah.
is. That's how
Well-
other people know you, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
it's
I wish everyone knew me by
that's how
Smash,
other
that'd be
people
cool.
call you. That's not how
That's how
they
we know you.
necessarily know you. If it's the same thing, like right,
I'm
it's like
branded
this.
on both sides, so I'm good.
Well, wait, like so let's take this argument, right? Let's take this argument, and it's like you can like, all right, if someone change their pronouns, right? It's like this is what other people know you. Like that's your identity. Like no, we care about you as a human being. We care about you as the person. If your name changes, your pronoun changes, or any of this other crap changes, your identity is still the same. Like what we call you is differently, but that's just the label we put on the can. What's important is inside, you know?
Right. Wait, hold
That's
on. Though.
the same.
Like, even though, like, yes, a person's name is not going to directly change them, right? Like, I agree with Shakespeare. A rose by any other name is still going to be just as beautiful, right? Or still smell just as sweet. But like the thing is, typically, whenever we have these constructs, they're for the purpose of like categorization and like for us creating systems in our mind with which to understand things in order to follow things. And so I think yes, like changing names and like last names and all those things, like they're not gonna have like change the intrinsic value of anything, but they do make things a lot easier to keep up with, and they do have certain signifiers for the purposes of identification within society that I think are pretty sensible and pretty reasonable. And I think for someone to just be like, I kind of want to do things differently, it almost seems like you're in some way saying that you're better than that, like as if you're above the
I
system.
want to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah.
As
Well, I think we
as
should all.
Can I
my
ask
last
Fanatic a question? Does it go the other way? Like, can we start taking women's last names?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, okay, so that's like I think the thing is that in reality, I think that the vast majority of people have always like the role of the father typically always was what like the family what shaped the family, which is why a lot of these last names were always after men, right? So you would have like Thompson. Or any of the son last name, right? Anderson meant like son of Ander, right? Or you would have like names that would be like so and so Smith, which was like a type of blacksmith, right? Or I'm trying to think of some other like jobs. Like a lot of times, like people's names
Cobbler.
were exactly. They were named directly after either the job or something that the male did, or even maybe a tool or something that's like greatly associated with whatever the job that the person did. Is because that's typically where families got their identities. And I think that's still to date where most families get their identities is from the men. So I think the idea of taking the woman's last name just sounds just weird. Like, why would we change that?
But what? But why?
isn't like last names though used to be like, didn't like slave owners used to like push their last names and stuff? So like within that, like, do we want to continue? Like, I like the point. I don't know who said it earlier, but like taking last names, a new last name for either person.
Okay, so I think it's a complete non sequitur that slaves forced their names on something. I don't think that like undoes
Slavers.
anything that I was talking about, or slavers. I'm sorry, slavers. Like
But
Like,
you said it was like pushed down on like tradition and stuff, and I just
Well, there's like both cases to where they
wait, hold on. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, there's both cases to where much of these slaves do legally. I mean, back whenever they freed them, have to take some of them were never knew like their last name or whatnot. They sometimes had a choice to what their name is, or those who are legally bind to what their basically slavers owners last name. I mean, there's examples of I remember there was a person that goes by Flowers. That was a very common thing that they did. I mean, and there's other ones who just go by like Jefferson. And on that, it's very complicated, but it depending on what situation it is.
I guess my point is that like last names are rooted, and to continue taking like people's last names, whether it's through marriage or whatever, is rooted within a society that is made for males, mostly white males. And I think that like within the identity and whatnot, that it somewhat matter. I want to like I guess my point is that like I just, as meme as it is, I want to say fuck society. Like stop within this.
Please. So, but did this tradition exist outside of white males? Did this tradition exist prior to slavery? Did it continue even after slavery?
That's the thing.
Did
Yeah.
it exist in absence of slavery? So, like, why
no,
would
that's
you
the
bring
thing.
that up?
Last names are tied to ownership. That's my entire thing. Like as women were married back in whatever the 1800s, even like I think in the night, like up until 19 something, like women were ownership to men, which is the same thing in regards to why some Black people have last names that are very common, like Johnson and things like that.
So I I hate to, highlight you, but you mentioned earlier that, your sister had choice differences between picking last names.
She kept her maiden name. Yeah.
Isn't there like a tradition in the Asian community of last name inheritance and all that stuff? Is it similar to how like the Nordic countries behave as well?
Yeah, so so it would be really important for me to pass it on, but her spouse ain't Chinese, so
it's not
kind of shit out of luck.
It's not just.
It's not about. I don't think
Western
it's much
European
taking
males that try to pass their last name on. It's a more global kind of phenomenon. Fanatic.
Hold on.
Definitely.
Wait. But we already gave other people last names. Typically, even in those other cases, we gave people last names that were associated very often. And furthermore, I need you to show me these Asian cultures where like they were like taking the woman's last name, or maybe I might have misunderstood slightly.
Can I explain this?
It wasn't to a female's last name. It was this tradition is not isolated to just Western Europeans. It's great.
So you agree with
the
me?
Male
you agree? So wait,
yes,
great.
The male
I get
passing
you.
on.
So then you agree with me where I was telling Amanda that doesn't make any sense and we shouldn't be trying to like analyze it through that scope, considering the fact that it predates, as I said, like white males in Western society, exists in absence of white males in society, exists.
I would remove the entire.
It doesn't predate ownership. That's my point. It doesn't predate ownership.
Well,
that's my point.
Last names were given to individuals where there was no ownership, right? There were specific last names for people who had no family ties. Typically, last names were given to people, and not as a sign of ownership necessarily, but as a sign of family, as a sign of connection.
Class status.
Well,
status.
As I said, it's very complicated. It really depends on the situation of per former slave on what they want to go on with their.
We do not need to talk about slavery. We don't have to talk.
No,
about slavery.
we don't have to talk about that. My point. No, that's not my point.
Please don't.
Yes, my point was mostly in regards to like ownership within like women and whatnot. And yeah, I don't want it to focus on that.
Salsa.
Yeah, so I had a question like on Fanatic. So I don't want to jump the gun here or put anything. So I'm just gonna ask like a clarifying question and then like the real one, the meat of it. Like you said earlier that oftentimes like it's a good idea for because fathers set the culture. I believe you didn't use the term culture, but like to set the tone of like or the direction of the family. Is that like apt to what you're saying?
I think both of those work. Yeah.
It's like I'm making an assumption. Like a big reason why fathers do that is because they're the breadwinners. They oftentimes their career takes focus and they make those decisions. Are we in agreement there?
Sure.
Of like what? So if we're in agreement there, like what happens if Now, let's say it's everybody's in their 30s now. It's careers are set. They're not set. You don't have to, but they're there, right? But the wife, the woman in this case, is a substantially like her career is going to take precedence, right? Maybe it's in politics or maybe it's in something, right? Now, would your opinion change because her career is going to take precedence? She's going to be the moneymaker. She's going to be the breadwinner. She's going to set the direction of the family. Now, would you adjust your opinion, say it's okay to take her last name because
I
it's
prob-
not the reason?
I probably still wouldn't. So, for one, I think even still, when you have those political people, maybe within the world of politics, she's going to have preeminence, right? But I think a lot of people are still going to appeal to the traditional values and still recognize that the husband is in a lot of ways the head of the household. And even if he's like a house husband, a lot of times, even still, like a husband is traditionally seen as a leader. When financial calamity affects a family, they're not looking at that woman as, oh, she really failed her family. They're going to look at it at the husband as the cause of that and the failure. People are pretty traditional in that way for the most part. We see, and as much as we want to say like, no, we're progressive and we don't really believe in all that nonsense, where in reality we still see family courts still give so much preeminence to women and things like that. It's not like everybody has some like perfectly neutral stance and perfectly neutral outlook. In reality, the man is still seen as the head of the household, even though women bring the vast majority of the divorces. Like they're still seen that way. It's still the vast majority of the time like the onus is on the man to ask for the wife's hand in marriage. Like it's just so much emphasis is put on like the husband. I don't know. It just seems weird to me like that we're gonna like start erecting these worlds in our mind where it's like no, in reality, let's pretend that this thing that still happens, that is still the norm for the vast majority of people, isn't the norm. Like it sounds kind of weird.
So
Right, but I
just to
think what
test
Salsa
that
was
though,
getting at was that, like, okay, but what if it were the other way around, right? Like, so it's
exactly.
true
Yeah.
that in a lot of families that might be the case.
The
But I
vast,
think
vast, vast, vast,
Salsa,
vast majority.
yeah, sure, we can say
Okay.
the
The problem is
vast
the
vast
hardships
majority,
are
but
placed upon the women when divorces do happen still.
You said what happened?
Like the problems within changing last name back and things like that fall upon the women or the person that typically takes the last name, and that's often women.
Sure. Or sometimes they can continue to just keep the new last name, and a lot of them do. A lot of them don't immediately go back to their surname. Some of them will keep the other last name until they're married again. But yeah, like what you're basically just saying, which I feel like really doesn't not contribute the wrong word. I don't want to be too harsh, but it really doesn't like reflect on anything that we've been talking about so far. You're just basically saying that there's an additional complication with changing your last name, which of course is just going to be true. But I don't
Yeah.
know what's the significance of that in this conversation.
I just think
Well,
that
the significance is that like we're arguing that like what's the value of actually changing? Well, I mean, maybe that's the angle that I'm coming from is what's the value of actually changing your name and going on with this tradition
bingo.
when there's clearly a setback that we're identifying here. Could harm your brand. It can harm your professional career, as we've
Oh,
mentioned.
sure.
Like, why continue this?
Okay, so in specific situations in which someone is already incredibly famous and things like that, I could
Well, no,
easily
it's not
see
that specific though, right?
what? Well, hold on.
We've
Wait, well,
identified
it is
so
pretty
let's say
specific. Well, because it is pretty specific. You're saying it could harm your brand, and in those cases, I would say the
yeah.
specificity that's required in order for something to harm someone's brand is they would already need to have that brand, right? So if you already have an established brand, which is why I said if you're famous or something like that, then in those cases, then it absolutely makes sense why that person would probably be not that they wouldn't want to change their name, or they can just go ahead and do do the Beyonce thing, right? Where it's like Beyonce knows Carter, right?
When
Yeah.
we look at
So, but that's my
continuing
point is
tradition and
that
stuff, don't we want to look at historical context and utility going forward and the issues that are caused from continuing such thing?
Okay, name an issue that you think that if the issue that you're talking about is like in the face of divorce, that someone's gonna have to change their name back and deal with that very short, very extremely mild inconvenience. I just don't think that it's worth entertaining upending like a very useful categorization system that helps us keep track of everything because there's a mild inconvenience in the face of divorce in which someone has to change it. Surely you have something that's a little bit less vapid than that.
I mean, what does it help you keep track of when
As
you change your name?
Did you not hear all of
Like,
the
I
things
mean,
that I explained when I first got into the call? Were you here from the beginning?
no, I
'Cause I-
was. It's just
talk
like
a
you
lot.
mentioned a
so I
bunch of
already
stuff
explained
about
those
like
things. Why are you
men
re-asking that question?
being
You
like,
talk a lot.
because I just don't think that any of that actually supported the fact that it keeps anything in order. I don't know what you're talking about. Being
I really did explain it.
men
Maybe you didn't
naming
hear.
after.
I hear you. Maybe you
No,
didn't
no, I
hear me.
heard it.
Oh,
No,
so if
no,
you
I
heard me,
heard
then
it. I
why are you
just
asking the
like
question? Because I
clearly me
already
and
answered it.
Amanda. Because me and Amanda clearly just see that it makes zero sense. Like you're just
no.
trying to like,
Amanda has
assign
not.
so much value
Amanda
to this
hasn't voiced
traditional
anything
thing.
like that
Well,
whatsoever.
I mean,
She has not voiced in
that's
any
kind of why we're
capacity.
both
Wait, she's not
we're both
voiced in
coming
any
back at you, man.
capacity. She's not voiced in any capacity that she didn't understand or that anything that I said was untrue. Not once. All she's done is brought up these random non sequiturs about, well, what about in slavery? It was done something harmful there, or what about the fact that there's a
That
last
was
name
like 5
attached to this
minutes
thing?
ago.
Right.
I'm just pointing out
The
different
initial,
instances
the
of
initial. Hold on,
last names and why it's stupid.
wait. The initial statement that I made, and the initial statement I made was when I first got into the call, which is probably around 7-8 minutes ago. If since then I've already explained what my position is, and the only thing that she's opposed thus far is to say these random non sequiturs, talking about that it happened 5 minutes ago doesn't change anything. It's still that was her
Forgive me that they
response to me
seem really
laying out
random, but
the
they're not.
categorizations. If you want me to, I can go back through them again if you guys missed them. It's not that I wasn't articulate, because I know how good I am with my words, but if needed be, I'll do it again.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, sure, then let me do
Everyone
that.
else is the problem here.
Oh, sure.
100%.
Okay, well,
I totally agree,
listen,
Fanatic.
right, you're saying,
Please,
oh my God, study
I
mate.
apologize
Sure,
for misunderstanding,
you
but
can say,
please do us the
you
favor.
can try your best to appeal to
I'm
a
just
broad
saying,
nonsense like, oh, it's
I'm just
everyone
saying,
else, when
if
it's
you
not
could please do us all the favor. I know we are all lesser than
didn't
you.
say everyone
I
else, and it's not like everyone else is pushing
Fanatic.
back with these random nonsensical non sequiturs.
I'm
It's
just
just
saying,
you
if
and
you
the
could
other
bless
person.
us with
You
your time
and one
and
other person.
re-explain,
So stop
I'm
trying to make
so
this
sorry
broad
for
appeal
how
to some
you
broader
waste
audience
time.
and some large crowd as if that's what's happening, when in
Okay.
reality it's two people with piss poor comprehension, not understanding an
No.
articulate nigga
We
actually
no.
walking
No.
down the
You've
line
been
and
yelling
explaining
from.
something.
Wait, no,
That's what's
shut up.
happening.
No.
Happening.
I
Put
told
you
no.
at the front if anybody can see through that.
Amanda, go ahead.
I literally
God.
said that when we like look at something and want to evaluate whether we continually doing things, we look at both historical context and implications in the future. So that's what we're doing here. The fact that you don't want to do that because you think it's useless is on you. We're discussing this as a panel, so let's discuss it.
To discuss it as a panel, but let's make sure that the discussion is actually productive and we're not just bringing up shallow, vapid points.
You just don't want to do this. You think it's vapid because you see no utility between it. So then why are you sitting here? You don't want to discuss it.
I do want to discuss it. I just want the points to
Apparently
be
not.
valid. Well, no. What do you think bringing up slavery has to do with the
I'm
discussion?
talking about
what-
historical thing because it's the same thing within ownership and why women took Ben's last name.
Oh my God, you just can't seem to get it. All right.
Okay.
All right, whatever. We're just gonna move past that. Anyway, so as I said before, there was a categorization value that we get from that. Typically, as I said before, I'm gonna say this again. Actually, pay attention this time, study mate. Okay. Whenever we come up with these sort of constructs,
You're so
typically,
triggered.
I got
Oh
you.
my
It's a matter of
goodness.
being triggered.
Is
I'll
this
tell
what
you,
happens when your ego gets challenged?
You'll trigger me more if you don't shut the hell up while I finish, and then you'll be able to talk. Okay. So it's really simple.
I was
the way
silent, and
typically,
you're like
typically,
throwing
come on,
jabs
come on.
'cause you're
Hey,
so triggered.
hey,
you're not
hey.
silent. So shut up.
Hey, one
Let's
at a
go.
time.
Prime to shut up.
One at a time, please.
I know. Thank you. All right, now if I can just finish, I'm giving you what you wanted. You asked me what the categorization was. Did you not actually want it, or what?
Thank you. Very thankful.
You're very welcome.
Please take the
You're very
stage.
welcome. Now please allow me to actually do what you're asking me to do. Okay? So it's really simple. Typically, whenever we come up with these sort of categorization, the purpose of it is for organizational purposes, right? And for to help us conceptualize structures and things like that. So whenever we wanted to identify familial structures, we needed some sort of categorization. That categorization was last names. And also it kind of gave an identification purpose of the direction that the family was headed. Very often, again, last names would be tied to either some form of legacy, or it would be tied to something like the job, the occupation of whoever the leader of the family was. And typically, obviously, the leader of the family is typically the men. Men are typically the breadwinners, and so for that reason, men typically were the ones whose last name were used, and that purpose is still going to be there. Did it come with some inconveniences? Sure. Does it mean that now, in a way, these two people, they start their own family unit, but this man still has a tie directly to his familial unit, whereas the woman typically loses hers. And I mean, that's just part of the way things have always been. And I guess I can see where that can be somewhat problematic, especially for things when it comes to divorce, trying to realign those things. And yeah, and I would say that it's probably not always going to be the most effective way of tracking these things down, obviously, because there are women who are breadwinners, but still in the vast majority of cases, women are not. So this structure still exists. It's still pretty important. It still helps us to identify and, like it just identify groups and things like that. So, I mean, you can try your best to upend it, but it just doesn't seem like it's particularly useful. I don't understand why we would need to do that.
Okay.
I kind
Cool.
of
So
don't
on
really
that,
understand what the
one quick
categorization of like people's jobs do. Like, yeah, if someone's named
Exactly,
gardener,
like-
they're not like just because their historical family job is gardener. I don't see how that really helps categorize in today in 2021, right? Like,
So
in the
yeah,
21st
that's a good
century,
fair.
yep.
That's a very fair point. So what it is it has two purposes, right? So that's the one purpose that I talked about was specifically about the gardener thing. That's where where the names were erected. Now the next part is about trying to understand lineage, right, and helping people to categorize like familial ties. And that lineage is typically done in this specific way, and that system helps us to be able to keep track of things, right? We do censuses for this purposes to be able to like and to date now we can see like you can trace down like your heritage, and these kind of things are kind of useful for like identifying maybe like health trends, right? Like when I got my life insurance, they were specifically asking me, did you have grandparents and people who had diabetes and things like that? Because it helps us to be able to identify like maybe hereditary conditions and things like that. When it comes down to ownership of property and things like that, the state can use last names in order to track down individuals to figure that out. When it comes to things like adoption agencies, they can use last names to be able to like keep track of things. Even in non-adoption purposes, like they can use that. For example, one of my buddies, when his mom died, they didn't know where. He had never even met his dad, but they could trace back where his dad was based off of his last name because they wanted to contact him because of the fact that because his mom and his wife his mom and his dad weren't officially divorced, they were just separated. Like there's all of these purposes and all of these values that come from these things. So I think like you can like maybe argue if you want to like, oh, these things don't serve any purpose, but clearly they do. Like there are functional benefits to having those lists.
Let's go to
well,
Turk.
I feel like that's a
Let's go
general
Turk,
argument in
Turk.
favor. Okay,
Let's go to Turk. He's got his hand up.
I just want to add, Fanatic, do you want to preach to us for the next 5 to 10 minutes? Should we just put ourselves on mute and let you talk, or do you want to actually have a conversation on the topic at hand?
What would you say thus far has been indicative of the fact that I don't want a conversation?
Because you don't let anyone talk. You just keep talking, dude.
That's actually really stupid. People ask me specific questions and I answered
Pace.
them. I've allowed everybody else to speak thus far. Like literally, you have a chance to respond. The only time that but most of the time I'm responding, if you notice, like I'm doing right now, because you directed something directly at me. The previous time, someone directly asked me a question. The other time, like Amanda said something in direct response to me that I thought was nonsensical. So I told her that I thought it was nonsensical. I'm responding to a conversation. That's what a conversation is. If you don't know what a conversation is, then go ahead and look it up in a dictionary.
This is a debate, not a conversation.
well, let's just let's stop focusing on what Fanatic did or didn't do and like get back to the conversation. So
yeah, I just
one
said a whole
question-
bunch, and you didn't even have
Yeah,
anything
I
to say
get
about
that.
it.
Didn't have
So
to
one
insert
question
yourself
I
there,
have about
Fanatic.
Fanatic's
Problematic pan continue. Jesus.
well,
Take
so
the
the
wheel.
arguments that I think that Fanatic that you made are good arguments, but they apply just as they are general arguments for having last names. They're not arguments for specifically using the male's last name over the woman's last name or any other combination, right? Like you can do the same thing. You can track down your family ancestry if you take the woman's last name. You can all of this utility, the stuff that you described, I feel is just inherent to the categorization of last names, and I don't think anyone's saying, "Oh, we should get rid of last names and only use first names." So, what utility does specifically the men's last name bring that taking the woman's last name wouldn't bring?
Well, again, I would say that it's twofold. One, like these things are like
See you, Brian.
traditionally, these things have been traditionally done this way, so that sort of makes sense now. Like to just switch arbitrarily, like it just seems kind of weird to do. I don't understand what the benefit of that would be. It does seem to be incredibly effective as it stands now, so I don't see why we would switch it. And I think it could be confusing unless like now we're going to make a ledger like whenever we're doing the lineage or genealogy, whatever, right? Where we're going to be saying, well, this was the system, but it's not the system now. So it's past this date. Now we're switching to women, or we'll just make it arbitrary as freak, therefore making it significantly harder to know like which lineage we're tracing and things like that. It just seems unnecessarily murky for like with I wouldn't see any serious.
Do you think people are
benefit
just
of
gonna
doing it.
forget how to use last names, like
That's-
just because it's
if
like
that's
a woman's
what-
last name?
If that's what you heard, from that, I'm sorry, buddy, but I can't really help you. That was stupid.
Well, I
Actually
mean, you're
respond to what I'm
literally
saying.
talking about how like just changing over to taking a woman's last name, everyone's gonna be like,
Yeah,
well, I don't even know what this is anymore. Like,
Oh, that's
and again,
so stupid. I'm sorry if that's what you heard, but I'm not going to address that. That's stupid. I didn't.
I mean, did anyone did anyone
I
else
don't
want
care
to
if anybody
stand
else
that?
heard it. I'm
I feel like
articulate enough.
that
No,
was,
that's not what I said. I'm sorry. I'm not addressing it. That's stupid. Let's move
You're
on.
very
I feel like that's what
Anyone else have a
everyone
better
kind of understood
contention?
it as.
Because that's not a good one.
I think you're very articulate. I just think what you're articulating sucks. But
Good, I got you. Now,
I mean, that's how the whole room kind of read
that's a
that.
very valid point, and I'm fine with that. And if you think that, then please address what I'm saying and tell me why it's bad. But don't just start picking apart dumb stuff or arbitrarily changing the thing or strawmanning it and just complete nonsense in order to actually make a point. That's not the point. That is exactly what the freaky did, which is why I'm not even engaging with it. If you got some intelligence to say, I'm more than willing to entertain it, that was stupid.
So okay,
Well,
I wanted to try looking at this. So Amanda, you said you brought up the whole property thing, but look, we don't look at marriage through that lens anymore. Like the marriage has evolved, right? Now that does mean that there are individual conservatives like who might still look at it that way, but I mean, like if the two individuals entering a marriage don't look at it as a property transfer, right? And what should it matter if a man takes if the woman takes the man's name, right?
There's still legal implications here with even property transfers.
Can you put your mic closer to your mouth?
Yeah, no. So there's still wow, I said it so much better when you couldn't hear me. So there's still legal implications within property transfer and stuff with last names. So if you buy a house with your spouse and all of that, you're the one that's having to deal. Most of it's dealt with in divorce and stuff, but there's still that transfer of property. I feel like people act like a name is just a name here, and maybe I'm different because my name is not just my name, or it's not nothing.
I'm a little confused. If you could help me out, because I don't. Maybe you know something that I don't. So what? You're saying it has to do with property. What exactly still has to do with property?
So when you buy a house, it's under your last name, which typically when you get married and stuff, it's still that house is under that last name. So it's not technically your last name still. I know this sounds really
but it's still your
arbitrary and
property,
stupid,
right?
but
If you're on the deed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like that doesn't go away just because your name changes, right?
Yeah.
no, it doesn't.
Right.
But
Yeah. So then in that case, it's I just not. And I'm not so
Yeah.
my own position on this isn't set, but I'm just not sold that looking at it through that lens of the man owns the woman, right? But we don't really look. I think the vast majority of people don't look at it that way anymore. I think some people still do, but I think if you're marrying that type of man, then you've kind of sold into it, right? You've bought into that worldview, so not a problem, right? Like that.
Yeah.
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 Well, I think also my I guess only contention with that would be I think that was the implication back in the day when we started these traditions, and if the only reason that we're continuing them is this weird kind of just continuing of traditions, or some a broad appeal to the structure of the head of the house, who is most likely the man, but not always. I feel if we're gonna again choose to continue this tradition, then there's that weird kind of connotation that still exists from when it was created. And so again, I liked Pan's point that it's well, what would change if we were to switch to taking just keep the same structure, but just take the woman's name? I don't see what would change in that case.
In reality, in modern times, fucking nothing, right? Because if we can run on the genealogy thing, if you want to find out who your great ancestors are, you're not nowadays, modern time, right? You're not. You might look at your last name, but what you're going to hop in is 23andMe or Ancestry.com, or you're going to have a more concrete way of finding out, right? And if you have a common last name like Smith or Johnson or Hernandez or whatever, you're not going to be able to run into hey Johnson, random other Johnson. You're probably my cousin, right? That's not the way that works nowadays. So it's just I don't think that would be a good way of finding things. It's it's in the reality of the situation. I know Amanda, you said names are just names, but I'm trying to think of a situation outside of the celebrity part where we talked about where like a name is literally just a name. It's literally just a label, right? Where if you just switched up your name, right? You just switched up the way people called you. If you don't have anything like hit on to it, like as far as like you have to get through the inconveniences of name changes and whatnot, but beyond that. So with that being said, like I don't I don't know. I'm not sold on the and even if the male is making decisions, back to like what Fanatic was saying, even if the male is making the decisions and then they're choosing the ways, the direction of the family or whatever, I don't see how that would change if the man had like the woman's last name either, right? Like it's like, all right, they have it. I still make the decisions. You're still gonna like, from you, random Joe who's interacting with me, your presumption is gonna be it's my last name from birth, right, and not hers. But
Well,
that's not going
again,
to change the interaction at all.
it won't change the interaction, but like again, it's still like that. Like again, in the vast majority of situations, the man is the breadwinner still in the vast majority of these things.
Sure.
So then I think like if that's the case, then it sounds like typically what we've done is we've used last names somewhat to follow, I guess, maybe the head of household. And I think like the idea that it's just like, oh, it's not important, we can just get rid of it. You can decide to. It's not like the world ends because we're not doing the system the same. But it just seems like it's a really simple and easy way of kind of keeping things sensible and really good for categorization. And I think I think it's like maybe one of the benefits of the responsibility. It's stressful. Men die like significantly sooner than women, right? And like that, the amount of stress that's associated with the idea of like having your lineage and your family on your back and being responsible for providing, being responsible for caretaking and all that, it takes its toll. So I think the idea that like this like there's a benefit associated with that we would like maintain this benefit associated with it sounds reasonable to me. I don't see
Like,
any
yeah,
problem.
if you want to present it like that, we're like, hey, the reward for you being the breadwinner and taking on this additional stress is that the reward is you get to keep your last name, right? Like, as long as we frame it like that, I don't mind, right? If someone's gonna have that type of outlook and they're gonna view it like that. But I think, as especially nowadays, right? Yes, men still probably are men are still traditionally like the breadwinners, but I don't think modern day homes, modern day houses in 2021, current year meme, is the same way that we used to run homes back in the 70s or the 60s. Where like if like I'm the breadwinner. I've always been the breadwinner in all my relationships, but I'm not dictating to my significant other, several lived-ins, right? What they're doing with their lives and what they're doing and all this stuff. Like I don't think modern day like homes function that way, right? Like they don't. You could be the breadwinner, but okay, cool. You don't get to make every decision like you used to.
I mean, I think that's great. The fact that like women are like able to make more decisions and things like that, especially considering the fact that men are incredibly selfish. But I don't know. I don't think that men are incredibly selfish. Let me take that back. That's so stupid. People are incredibly selfish,
Agreed.
and I think that selfish like really like shows itself whenever power comes into play. And so I think like obviously the empowerment of women has like contributed a lot to women having more freedom and choice and things like that. And I think that's obviously a beneficial thing. However, what we're starting to see is that women can be just as selfish. And you have a lot of women that are like displaying that. And it's like, okay, so this wasn't a man thing. This is just a power thing. But yeah, like I would say that thing still holds to make the most sense. Like the person who's going to be the most responsible. Again, no matter what, if a family fails financially and is destitute, then it's going to be looked on as a man's failure before it's looked on as a female's failure. If a man can't keep his job, then it's really, really problematic. Like hard body. Like a lot of times society is going to look at men for what they bring to the table. Women can be appreciated for just existing. There are plenty of like extremely wealthy dudes who will take on a wife who will just be their trophy wife, who will be arm candy, who will have nothing between her ears and will have like literally no other like strong benefits or like really strong offerings to society or any of those things. Like we see that happening and it's totally acceptable. And it's like, oh, well, that's what it is. Or how many of these women where their literal like their plan in life is to bed a freaking
Oh boy.
I
like
think
an
my
NBA
problem is
player so they can make that money. Like we see it happening on a regular basis. God, like it's literally one of the largest contributing reasons why a lot of these like athletes go broke. Because of all these like kids from all these people, which I think again, this is their responsibility. You're responsible for who you put your dick in, but we can't. It's not like we're gonna like pretend as if that's not like literally the aim and goal of some of these women in these circumstances. So yeah, ultimately, I just think like yeah, all of this stuff, like the man is still going to be always viewed as the responsible person, like in like almost all of these cases.
Why would that
I
be the
feel like
case
that
if the
argument.
if
Hold
the
on, I feel
female's
like
the
that
bread?
argument is like exactly the why I'm completely against it. Is like it's a power thing, and that's my problem with it. Is it's a power thing.
So you're saying that you wait. So your problem is specifically just that there
Not
is a power
exactly. I mean,
dynamic.
there's a lot of problems I have with it. Mostly I'm lazy as fuck and I don't want to change like go through all this paperwork and change my last name. But
I can't
like
like please. That's,
Uh,
I'm sorry.
this
I just don't want to engage with that. I'm just lazy and I don't want to do paperwork. Like, that can't be
no,
a real
it's not
argument
just
after
that.
everything that we're
No, no.
talking
But
about.
you don't do you even understand how much work it is to change your last name?
I
Like do
don't
you have
care.
any idea what the work is to go through that?
I don't care.
But you will when you get well, you won't. You're a male. Exactly. That's the problem. You
Yeah.
don't understand the work to go through it. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Anyways, my
listen,
computer's
I can't
about to die
engage with
though.
that. That's stupid.
Why can't you engage with the work that someone has to go through, which is
Be-
one of the issues here?
Because one, it's a minimal amount of work. Number
But it's
two,
not.
like
It's not.
okay, and then number
Okay, what
two,
do you have to do then?
number two, after everything that I've like gone through so far, I think that's pretty ridiculous. Like I can't.
yeah. So
It's
I
just not.
I think
not
I think the bigger problem. I think the bigger um. All right, there's got
I
so
think
much.
Smash is
been said.
having a problem here with the fact that the last name is not in fucking important. I don't give a shit about the last name. It is a brand thing. It is the fact that you've lost the identity of your last name. That is your last name. You no longer have your last name. The laziness on top of the fact that you don't want to change your last name to modify an ad or, redo a whole bunch of shit just says that you're just a lazy individual and you don't want to go through the process. That's for a lot of people. The reason why I haven't done it yet is because legally it would take a lot of effort and about 6 years of my goddamn time.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like it's a lot of work, and
It's not a
you
lot
said
of work. It's just a lot of paperwork. It's just a lot of
that.
busy
Yeah. Okay.
sitting around and waiting work. Hurrying up
So
and wait.
I don't know. I think giving up my ID for 2 weeks is kind of a huge
It's just a thing
inconvenience.
in your state. That's a state thing. Like I've changed my address and
That's a
my
good point.
name
We could change the
recently.
laws to make it much easier, and then maybe I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I mean, why don't we just like not change our names and call it good?
Well,
Yeah.
that's where I was at
And
the
then
beginning.
combine the names of both parents when you have a kid.
That's horrible.
Okay,
Hey,
that's cool.
actually,
That's
I
cool.
can tell
I'm
you,
so
I
Cool
glad
for
you're
one
here.
generation.
I'm
That's
so
cool
I
for
glad
one
you're
actually
here.
have this.
generation, but that's not. That's
Nah,
like you
so
could
I'll
talk
tell you what
about it. That's not
happens.
expandable.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I have one name, wifey has another name,
Before you
right?
say anything, Mad Latin, thank you for being here. You're back. We've missed
Yeah,
you,
I
I
buddy.
am
know.
back.
Yay!
Hey, hi.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Prime. Actually, before we get into this, did you get my chocolates yet?
You sent me
I mailed you
chocolates?
chocolate. Yeah,
Why did you send me
He
chocolates?
sent him forever ago.
because I want you to eat them on stream.
Okay.
You have to eat them on stream. Pinky promise
I'm
me.
not gonna.
My
I'm not
computer
gonna
is
pick
literally
apart.
gonna
I hate
crash, by the
chocolate.
way.
No, please.
I despise
No, come
chocolate.
on.
I
Come on.
despise chocolate.
Come on.
No, I hate
No.
chocolate.
Alright,
It's
guys,
disgusting.
Prime's
What?
canceled.
It's dog
Dude,
shit.
Prime, my
I
computer's gonna
sent you
die.
This is a
chocolate.
bad
Bye.
Oh,
take.
bye.
Brian. This is a bad take.
Okay.
I'm really upset, actually. Like,
Mad
I'm
Latin.
literally putting myself out here, sending you chocolates and shit. You can at least eat
First
one.
time I'm hearing of this.
I would never
Mad
do
Latin,
that.
have you ever heard of the Gift of the Magi? Have you ever heard of that?
Is that like a...
There's an anime
Okay.
about that, but sorry. I guess you're talking about the gifts that the gave to Jesus, the three wise
Well,
kings.
no, but yeah, and there's also like a short story about it that I think was called "The Gift of the Magi." The short story version was just basically about like these people. There's a couple, and they were like getting gifts for each other, and the woman like had this really long, beautiful hair, and the husband had something else, and so like the husband sold his prized possession in order to buy her this like amazing comb, and the wife sold her insanely beautiful hair in order to buy the thing for his prized possession. So then now
Oh,
she doesn't have the hair guy that needs whatever. And I think that the moral of that story is that like a gift is only as important or as valuable as it's going to be received by the person. Like as long as it's useful and reasonable for the person. Like getting a person chocolate that hates chocolate and then demanding like, well, because I got you a gift, you need to eat that. Is so insane
Okay,
to me.
fine. Sorry, I'm so sorry for pressuring Prime into eating chocolates. You can at least though unbox it on stream and show everyone the
sounds
chocolates
good.
again.
I'll do
Is
that.
that fair?
I'll
You
do
could
that.
forward
Alright,
it to me.
so
You can forward the
Pinky
chocolate to me.
promised
I
that you'll
love
do that
chocolate.
then.
in the
I'll
trash.
unbox it. Yeah, Picky promise.
Oh, thank
I
God.
think you could just
Box
resend
it
the
on
chocolate to
stream
me.
and throw it in the trash live. That's what you gotta do.
Oh my God,
Oh, man,
each
top
and
dolphin.
every individual chocolate, and then just get a blender, fill it with some milk, and then throw each chocolate in there, and then and after you've blended it, throw it into your sink.
Oh, I thought you were gonna
Just
make
make
it
a
a shake.
YouTube video. No,
Oh.
remember he hates chocolate. No one wants a whole bunch of 52 flavors of different caramel fillings in a shake, unless you're a fucking psychopath.
And the shake sounds gross.
Let's go to Mad Latin. Go ahead, and then let's then Top Dolphin.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, the last name thing is actually like not that. So we could not figure out what we. So me and my wife did not agree on A, number of kids, and B, last names, like at all, right? Like even until the last minute, we had no fucking idea what we were gonna do. So we got hitched, and we didn't change our last names because we didn't know what the fuck we're gonna do. We didn't agree on any of it. She really likes her last name, and I really liked my last name, and we just kept going, right? Kids were born, and like we had to fill out the birth certificate. So we had to do something, and so we settled on a hyphenated first name and 2 last names that are unhyphenated. That way the kids have like both our last names, but like maybe they'll think her name is like a middle name. That was like my logic behind it. But she's happy because like her last name's first. So it's like a compromise of like the highest nth degree at the nth hour. And like
Why
it's
the
worked
hyphenated first name?
because
That
it's
seems
like
so
a trick.
overly complicated.
No, it is. It's absolutely.
I'll be
It
completely
sounds
honest.
overly
It sounds-
complicated.
So-
it also makes it easier for tax purposes. Sometimes
So-
the tax man will fuck up.
So the funny
You're
part
really
is that
attacked.
I have a hyphenated first name and she has a hyphenated first name. Like my wife already has a hyphenated first name. So we're used to having hyphenated first names anyway.
Okay.
So the kids have hyphenated first names and we gave them 2 last names instead of a middle name. So like one of the last names might look like a middle name and it'll feel okay. Like for the
It
kids.
sounds so insane to me.
The
All
way
of
I
this
was
because
taking
she just
it.
can't
Me
submit
too.
to her
This is-
husband. That's crazy, bro.
I mean, why is it
get
crazy?
this.
I mean, it's not
I
that
don't
hard.
know. It's not that hard to just submit. I don't get why she just couldn't
I
submit to you.
What the
God,
fuck?
why? That is like
Submit to me.
so
What the
left
fuck is
field.
that?
I alt tab my brain for 2 seconds and come back to why hasn't she submitted to you? I'm like, wait, doesn't she wear the pants of the relationship? Because hello, he's Hispanic and she's Hispanic. Assuming that she doesn't beat his ass when she's not home is quite racist of you, if you ask me.
Right? What? Racist?
Like-
I'm a little confused. But okay.
He was making a joke.
Okay.
It's
I-
a joke.
I missed that.
I
Sorry.
guess the easiest thing is
I've
like,
been
why
done this
didn't someone
since-
submit? Is the same thing as like, why won't necessarily you submit? to
Someone?
yourself?
Yeah, I
We know who's
agree. I
supposed
think
to
it's.
submit in this
I think it's
scenario.
No,
petty that
like
none
you
of
you
submitted.
No.
could frame it that way. You could frame it that way, but like if,
No.
like,
It's no supposed to.
no, like you could frame it because the society like push them that way. But if someone did not grow up that way, did not get like brought up in that fashion, where like you're not submitting to fucking no one, like so the parents were doing a damn good job of like alienating them from that part of society. That's just simply not their experience. That's not what they have, right? So it's just like, yeah, it's not. It's like,
I mean,
especially
it's-
like it's not.
It's
a
an
deal.
overrated tradition that's like burdensome to the woman. Like,
Yeah.
why do women have to change?
Burdensome, bro.
It is like having to change your
It's
name on
such a mild
everything.
inconvenience.
Think about the bills that
But-
you have to deal with. Think about like the fact you have to get a new license.
Oh,
Think
you
about
know
like
that he-
not being
you know that
found
he's
in
gonna
public
be
records.
paying-
Hold on,
you know
hold
that
on.
he's gonna be paying now.
I mean,
Like,
we're the
he's
ones with
gonna
the
be-
privilege here.
But okay,
Yeah.
but to Fanatic's point, like the burden on changing your name during marriage is not that great. I mean, because like our society expects that, and we have processes in place to make it easier. That direction. Now you're talking about divorce. It's different. That's different. But if you're
Well,
talking
I mean,
50%
like,
of marriages
the
end in
likelihood-
divorce.
then
Right.
it's.
Actually, that's a fair point too.
I'm sorry. I didn't know what the hang on point.
There were too many people that didn't hear it.
50% of marriages end in divorce.
That's not
so
true.
Just
That's
saying
not
it.
true. That's not
Wait,
true.
that's so.
Is it
No,
not?
it's not true. No, it's not. It's just a.
No, it's not.
When you hear a round stat like that, investigate. and it's.
Well, I assume they rounded.
It's
yeah,
not.
no,
No, it's
no,
not.
it's
It's not.
probably
It's
more
not
like
true.
42 or.
It's not true. It's not true. If you actually.
Wait, what's the actual number then?
If you look at that's the thing. It's actually difficult to tell what exactly that number is. I'd have to look it up again. But that came from one like vague statistic that people just kept copying and pasting. It's one of those things that they like just repeat in the media over and over again. But that's not the case. Look it up.
Yeah. So the thing with the divorce thing is there's 2 times as many divorces as there is marriages. But a big part
One
of that
time.
is because like the baby 2 times, right? I mean double the number of divorces as marriages. Was they say 50% of or wait, hold on.
Well, that's because of serial divorcers, right? Like if you
That's
get
what I was
divorced
gonna
9
ask. That is
times.
that part of it?
Oh,
But the reason it comes out to 50% is because the baby boomer generation is like really, really big, and a lot of those people are in times in their life in which they're getting divorced, and also younger people are waiting later and later to get married. So right now we have a giant discrepancy in like divorce and marriage rates compared to what they usually are. But if you like follow like generations, they've stayed like roughly the same.
Do we
so
know what that same mark is?
around 16 was it? It's
That's so
30% according to
stupid.
what I'm looking at. 30% people get divorced.
Calculate that
Yeah,
way.
it's
That sounds so stupid.
Other than the fact that I'm looking at WF Lawyers
Oh my
divorce
God.
statistics and facts, apparently 16.9 divorces for every 1,000 married women.
Well, that's per year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to figure out this. You would think it's pretty straightforward, but it's actually not quite simple.
Well, thank you for that,
Most
Prime. I had no
divorces are
idea. That's why I hate
extended
people.
as shit.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Why the freak, man?
It says
I don't know why
okay.
it'd be
It
so
says 41%
inaccurate.
here.
Well, I mean,
first of all,
so
that's not
the-
50%. And again, we
True.
yeah, and like it's like what Dolphin was saying. It changes by like the generations, and like how you track a marriage is like not so simple. Like because you would have to know like the total number of marriages, and then like which one of them are ending, right? Like this marriage ended here, so it's like 50% of what like turns into what, like, you know. At what point does that marriage end? It's like not so easy to calculate at all.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd
Let's
have to
just
do
be
like a
vague then. Let's
longitudinal
just be
study in which
vague.
you follow like the same people who got
Yeah.
married and like take it on. But like
Okay, but
even
let's
that
just be
doesn't
vague.
work because you can't do. You have to do like several of them because you can't like just like look at 1 year. You'd have to look at like all the people who got married from like 2000 to 2012, and then you'd have to follow all those people until they got divorced and like check this. It's like really fucking complicated.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't even if you did that, you wouldn't be able to give like a specific statistic on how many of these people get married. I mean, get divorced. You'd have to say they get divorced by X time. Like, you know how
Yeah.
they say like
You could
such
say,
and
like,
such businesses, such and such businesses fail within the first 3 years. Such and such businesses fail within whatever, and then the final one is 66% of businesses fail within 10 years, right? Small businesses, right? Like, you need to be able to do that kind of thing because like you can't just say X amount of these things fail when like over time some of these people might continue to eventually join it and be part of those statistics. Like, to make this just a broad statement that they like 50% of them like divorce like over the lifetime of the divorce within X amount of time, or what? Like how would you know that?
Yeah.
Like you would need a time like a time control.
Yeah.
I feel like this isn't important. Let's just be vague. Somewhere between 30 and like 45%. Can we just say
Sure.
that?
Sure. Okay. Great.
Because I think that still has
Don't
the same
fuck with
weight, right?
stats on divorce rates because it's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but
So
the
dumb.
point is the divorce rate is significant, so that this is a significant problem that a
Would-
woman is
would-
likely to face. That's all that I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter the exact percentage.
Likely, but if less than 50%, then she's not particularly likely, right?
But then
I mean, if 3 in 10 women do it, I'd say that's pretty likely.
But okay, so the problem is, and Hans, thank you for
Okay.
joining us. Nice to have you, and JJ as well.
Likely, but
No problem. Sorry for like jumping in and then running away. I'm doing a beer tasting tonight, and beer number 4 tasted like absolute asshole. I couldn't even finish it.
Asshole doesn't taste
I'm
so
not.
bad.
I'm not
You should-
drunk
You
yet,
should be used to
Fanatic.
the taste of asshole.
Asshole
Hans.
does
What the
not
fuck?
taste so bad. So
I don't eat
give it a
ass.
try.
I do a lot of things.
You're
but I
not
don't
used
do
to the
that.
taste of asshole. You suck.
Yeah. Sorry.
What's going on?
You ain't eating booty
What?
nowadays. dog?
Nothing.
What are
What,
you
nothing's
doing?
going on. What's going on?
Don't worry, Fanatic. I
Nothing's
got
going
you.
on.
It's okay. No fighting tonight. I mean, maybe.
Okay,
We'll
so
see. I'm not about that energy. I
think there will
never.
be some fighting
you mean
tonight.
eating butt? You're not about that's.
Oh, I am not about
all
eating ass.
the
I am not about
time.
eating ass. New
I'll-
debate topic. Do
No,
you eat ass? I do not.
No, it's
Should you
women,
take your wife's
women,
ass in your mouth?
women take better care of
Also,
hygiene
study
of their
mate,
booty.
you did not show up for League of Legends, and I am disappointed in you.
Who did?
What?
He was playing all day.
Yeah.
This guy. As soon as I log on,
Bro.
he's gone. He's gone.
You're full.
I didn't come for this course. I came for you, study mate. Where the fuck were you?
Okay.
Where were you when we needed you?
I want
to actually focus on this, but yeah, like I mean, we could talk about this some other time. Like eating booty, like definitely, if you're a man, eat someone's booty.
So
give it a try. But anyway, let me finish my
chocolate
point.
is not your
I
thing.
would never eat chocolate, but I would eat booty. I would rather eat.
You don't like chocolate, but you'll eat
up
ass?
someone's butt.
Oh,
Yes,
come
absolutely.
on.
What?
Making it very clear.
Why don't you
I
like
would
chocolate?
definitely-
That is not a good
Are you speaking from experience, bro?
Oh,
No,
differently.
From absolute experience, I've eaten a lot of asses.
Yeah, like what is what is this? What is this attempt at shaming, y'all? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right?
like
Yes.
it doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah,
No
just
one's-
like a clean one, right? Like you actually
Yeah, it's
partner.
not like she just went to the restroom. Or something.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not
Like you
some
ask
gas-
your
You know what,
partner,
man, Smash?
are you good?
All
Let's
these
be
people,
fair, we're not
all
shaming
these
him for
people
liking
talking about
eating
wanting
ass.
to,
We're
like, take
shaming
their
him
wife's
for
last name and
disliking
get
chocolate. Okay, that's the real problem.
Amanda, all these people talking about taking their wife's last name and not being able to convince their wife to submit to them and take their last name, I bet they probably would be into begging.
Whoa!
100%
The
right.
only time when someone
they
submits
should
to me is
normalize
when I
begging.
beat them in a
you're such
game
a
of League of
progressive. That's
Legends,
so great.
or I have a debate about
Can
school
I
and mandatory
give my take
education.
on
That's
last
the
name?
only
I
time people
feel
submit
like
to me.
Fanatic is drifting
so
a little
before-
bit, just a little
like-
bit.
So before we do that, I do want to get back to the subject at hand. So you were saying that a problematic pant. You said that this is a problem like women would have to face, right? Well, I think there's more of a problem that people will have to face. Like it's saying that the divorce rate is a certain amount, I don't think should play into marriage, because people go into marriage with the thought that it's going to succeed, right? You don't like go into it hoping and feel like the best you could do there is like have like a prenup or something. But beyond that, people prepare for success.
Yeah, well, this is just the equivalent of having a prenup, right?
But no, it's not, because unless you're saying that no one changes their name, period, and that's one thing. But if someone's going to change their name, right, or both of them change their name for like in hyphenated, right? If that happens, then someone somewhere is going to have a burden. So then it's all a wash. So I don't think that in itself is a reason to not like have a woman take a man's name. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Maybe I'm being unclear.
Wait, I'm okay with. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it's equal reason for man and woman. But as it stands now, generally, women take men's last name. So, I guess, yeah, in theory, that could become a problem. And it would be a wash. But right now, I don't think it is a wash. I think it's pretty clear who bears the brunt of this right now.
All right, JJ.
Yeah. I didn't know my opinion on this until I checked with my partner, and she told me what to think. And it's don't.
What's your last name? Tell us. Is it hers? Did you take it? Like.
No, okay. Her thing was it doesn't matter if you take the man's name, the woman's name, or if it's a queer partnership, like whoever's name is the coolest, that's the one you take.
True. That's way better.
This and the other one's like
better.
Powers. You're fucking Powers. You fucking take that name.
No, it's actually not.
Yeah, I mean,
my wife,
bro, I had the
her
same
last
take
name
as
will
you.
be Harkir, whether she likes it or not. All right, like
That's not even
I
your
think
last
that's a good
name.
point by JJ.
a
That's
banger
not
name.
your last name.
Because like
Wait.
if the girl had the last name Kennedy, you can be damn sure I'm switching last names. Like or some like fucking super important
So
name that'll
true.
get me
Get
places.
that
You're
dynasty,
gonna get your
dude.
Fucking
You're
right.
about to
You
get
win
your
the
head
panel.
cavitated so quick. I don't know why you would take that last name.
Okay.
Yeah, never fly.
For that name.
Worth it.
I took the last name Kennedy. Well, you got
Yeah, but
problems now.
you're not taking the last name
The
Kennedy.
fieriest candles burn
You're
out
not
the
taking the
fastest.
last name Kennedy because it sounds good. You're taking the last name Kennedy because it has like historical significance, and that you're hoping that people are going to misconstrue it applies to you. You're hoping that they think you're a Kennedy, right? If
Or
you're
a
taking last name
Jefferson.
Kennedy,
Yeah, if we
just
want to
like
be real, you don't
Rothschild
take
or
the
some shit
coolest
like
last
that.
name. You
Exactly.
take
You
the
hope to
whitest
get that
last name.
benefit.
Like that's the
So like
real
I
take.
don't think that
Okay.
necessarily counts.
Like,
not your
no.
boy, but
Yeah,
I will
I
say
mean, I
this.
hope I give it an advantage.
I think that like I had a buddy and he didn't like his last name, and so he decided to change it. His last name was Hiscox, which was spelled Hiscox.
I'll change it too.
And when he got married, the actual
That's
last
bullshit.
name was
No.
He changed it
should
to
have
Hercox.
he should have forced
Nah,
her
the
to take
act-
that last
Why
name.
did she not
Bear
submit to
Hawks.
him?
Well, no, it was
I
actually
love
his
his
idea.
cocks.
So his mentality was
Love all his
specifically
cocks.
that his mom. I mean, that the name was actually Hitchcock, but someone in his lineage was like pretty illiterate or had a hard time reading, and so when they wrote their name, they sounded out the best that they could, and it ended up being Hiscox. And so now that's his lineage's last name. His wife's name would have been Heather Hiscox, and he was just like, it just doesn't have a nice ring to it. So I decided to change it, and so now, they're Finches. And
Did he take hers?
Just like the
No,
cool last name.
they
'Cause,
came
like,
up
I think
with-
that's the most.
They came
base
up with their
thing.
own.
Like,
They
you
came
can-
up. So basically, like his favorite book, I think, was To Kill a Mockingbird. It's his literal favorite book of all time. So he took the last name of Finch. And I think that made a lot of sense. It was like, okay, well, like I don't like this lineage. No, it's not that I don't like my lineage. I don't like that our last name is one that's based on ignorance. And so he's like, I'm going to change that, and he did. I think that made a bunch of sense. But I think if it would have been like, I'm just going to take my wife's last name out of. I don't know. I mean, he's one of my friends, so I know that he would never do something like that.
So that is the question I have for you then, Fanatic, right? Like,
Yeah,
he picked Finch. What if he would have picked her last name? And it sounded like you would think lesser of him for picking her last name for the simple fact that it's her last name. Or did I misunderstand that?
I would. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So like that's the part I'm not connecting. Then.
That's so weird.
Yeah,
like
it's because-
you're okay because it's like because it's cooler, but not okay because like just like the woman's like this feels so arbitrary. Like,
All right, hold on, Hans. I want to
it's
hear
not
what
very
Fnatic has to
arbitrary.
say. I just want just 1 second.
Yeah, it's not arbitrary at all. It's that like one like traditionally people have been able to give themselves last name like for various reasons, like if they're starting off fresh, or like sometimes orphans, and things like that. People would skip towns, change their name and just give themselves a new name. Like there's all sorts of different reasons why people would give themselves last names, wanting to distance themselves from like other like familial ties. Like sometimes like you might have like a serial killer in the family, and then people are like, I'm not going to be a Dahmer anymore. I just refuse to go by that last name. It's too infamous, so we're changing our last name. So there's all of these various reasons that we choose different last names. I just don't think that there's ever been like a really historical tradition, at least not in America or any other European societies, really.
There is
of like doing that, like of deciding to just like take
I
the
think
woman's
it's
last name. I think that doesn't make sense.
I think it's in Greenland or in Iceland that's like some men take their woman's name. I gotta look it up, so I don't want to give misinformation.
I
But I
mean,
think it's one of
it's
those.
just arbitrary. I mean, it's arbitrary and cultural, right? Like, there's no good reason to say, "Oh, I'm never going to take my wife's last name." Like, it doesn't make sense to actually have a bias in any direction. Like, people should just do whatever they want, and you shouldn't judge them for it.
Well, there's no reason. There's no reason to do it now. But that like it's not that it's just like nonsensical. Like we did have like reasons for doing it the way that we were doing it.
I was gonna like. It's not just tradition. Let me like extend an olive branch to Fnatic. So like specifically, I can completely understand like when you're trying to keep track of family like lineages and shit. That like it's like that like having a consistent pattern of how names are passed down is probably important for understanding family trees, especially if you're writing that sort of shit down, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. But like now, when we have like digital records of like people and like families and stuff, I think it's like super arbitrary. So now I don't. Yeah, so I think that cultural use has like we have like come to it and past that moment. So now I feel like there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to do like just the coolest name. Because like if we just like if every person just like completely picked their own like first and last name at age 18, we have the technology that can just like record people's lineages like regardless.
I mean, not really.
Wait.
1 second. That's actually true.
No, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Like I went through a whole bunch of points around this, right? Like it's not just about whether or not we would be able to do that. The thing is, these categorization purposes aren't just just for them. They're for everyone. And so like like there's a lot of people who aren't like, we're not going to all be sitting here and stopping every time like we're trying to consider like who someone is or where their lineage is or where they come from, like for identification purposes, and just being like, well, you know, like we're not all going to be looking at databases in order to do those things. Like we've always had a list.
What do you need to know where people came from? Like just
Yeah,
because
'cause
you
we
want to
don't
know
do
like
those things.
if they're
That's
like
the answer.
Israeli or
I've never used Ancestry.com. Like,
Okay,
It'll just be a QR
that's a good
code
question.
and
That's a
go
good
by our
question.
Twitter
That's a
handles.
good. That's a good question. I'll answer your question. So the answer is that you would probably do that, especially when like within a given community, right? Like within a town. Like my last name means something. My last name portends my Smash game. So if I'm like meeting women, they know automatically, oh, this nigga's a Riley. They know I put it down. They know I got the swipe, right? Like that's something that you could just associate
So you're saying
with
like
the lineage.
your mom's real good at sex or something?
I'm
Or, like,
saying, well, it's a family of 6 boys and 3 girls, and you know, 6 men and 3 women, and yeah, you know, it's just that's the
big
thing.
family.
Associated with the name.
I mean,
So
if
it's
you
cool
want
to
to
be
talk
proud
about
of
real
your
reasons that
name
it's
and
like
all.
good to like have like lineage, it's like a really good example is like medical histories and stuff. So like if you want to be able
I
to
brought
like
that up earlier,
back,
Top Dolphin.
like,
They're just not really engaging with any of the things I said, because I definitely said that too.
Okay, well, I mean,
The panel came in after you made these points.
And that's a good point. Like I think you're completely correct. Like say even like up until like 20 years ago, but I think at this point now, like we have like people's like familial connections, like literally like, through Facebook. Like it's entirely possible that we can have a database of people's like familial connections in some flavor of a database, that like the benefits that used to come from having like an easy family history to look through, we can easily do that with like basic tech. Like there could be like a simple app where it's like, these are my relatives.
Again, for the purpose of
Why?
community,
Like,
I'm gonna answer it. Obviously, do you think I'm just gonna say stop there? So for the simple like purposes of community and things like that, like not everybody uses Facebook, number one. So then like there's gonna be plenty of times where like you can immediately have an association just based on like literally recognizing someone's last name, particularly if a last name is like not super common. You can already have like a pretty decent association. If I meet a Hiscox, I know, oh, you're related to so and so, right? Like that's just, I already know. Like you're probably related to that because it's an extremely uncommon last name. Now if you go with something like Williams or something like that, then maybe you know you just know you're probably black, but there's just not going to be that much of a
like what about people named Smith? Like their like last name is like useless.
So,
like I
this
feel like
is actually really silly though, and like not relevant. Like the thing that's really silly about this is like, okay, so you can recognize people's last names and say, oh yeah, you must be related to that. But like, why is that necessity reason to shake your head at someone who chooses to pick their wife's name? Like that's the question, is it not? And we're talking about medical histories and whatnot, and like you can still track like medical histories through like a matriarchal line. Like the reason why men's last names were passed down generation to generation had nothing to do with public records. We could write the shit down any which way. It has everything to do with the fact that we once had a patriarchal society and everything was passed down the male line, and it's a remnant of that.
What do you mean? What do you mean once? Has the patriarchy? Has the patriarchy?
I mean, no, it's still. I mean, it's diminishing.
It sounds like some data logic, bro.
I mean, true. Okay, so like, fair enough. There's still like remnants of what it was before, and I'm not saying that patriarchy has ended. What I'm saying is that there was a time where men had rights, women did not have rights, and everything was tracked through the male line, and that is where this tradition has come from.
It's
right?
not just because they didn't have rights. It was literally also like a decent tool for like adding to like the trackability of things. The reason typically was because the man was the provider more often than not, and so then there was this like need to kind of encourage other people to have so since the man was the provider, then the idea was constantly like that. A lot of times last names back in the day were given specifically around who was the provider and the job that they did. So if that was the case, we're repeating our arguments again since so many new people came
All right,
in.
we're in 2021.
Hold on. No. I don't care. 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 Stop. Thank you. I was talking. I don't care. 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 I don't care.
Everyone stop talking right now. Stop it. Stop it. Everyone, no one says a word. Thank you. Holy shit. Okay. Can we move on from this? Whatever is happening.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Thank you. I don't care that that we're in 2021 now. The purpose was I was pushing back against Mad Ladin's idea that this had everything to do with just because of the fact that women didn't have rights at the time. It wasn't about a rights thing. It was typically an it was an identifying purpose, and that was the reasoning behind it. It was like, this helps us be able to keep up with and identify different families, and specifically in those communities, it also helped them to be able to identify like what the role or what the role was of the husband in that scenario. So that's why we gave them those last names. It wasn't necessarily
So I'm gonna
yeah.
push
Go
back on
ahead.
this because like, so you're telling me that like for someone to be able to identify who the smithy is in the town, they're gonna have to walk out and say, hey, can I get a Smith? Is your last name Smith? Can you do like, wouldn't they just go to the blacksmith place and like
Hello, I used to
get their services
know a man
there?
named
Like, what's the point of the
John.
name?
Are there
Okay,
any
so
sons
as I
of John in
explained,
the area?
as I explained, what it was
Come on, dude.
like, well, then the last
it's
name was.
stupid.
Please, are you guys stupid? Let me finish a dang sentence. You see how he asked his dumb question and I'm
I
going to
know
answer it?
I know you are.
You see how he asked his dumb question and I'm about to answer it, but I let him finish. You saw how I let him finish his dumb question? So then shut the hell up and let me finish. When you talk,
Only
when you
betas
ask a
get
question,
mad.
I shut up. So now when I'm responding to the question, you shut up. It's that simple. He asked a dumb
Fanatic,
question. Let me answer
control
his
your
dumb
emotions,
question.
So good to be
Free.
able to yell at
Everyone,
people.
Anyway,
Shut up so
anyway.
much. Thank you.
Let him go.
Anyway,
Let him go.
so my point being, so it wasn't the reason why these names were given. It was like, again, for identification purposes, and it wasn't like, oh, I need to know this last name in order to be able to figure out where this service was. It was more just like we gave people last names like associated with what they did, and then when it came to tracking lineage, then it was really easy to be able to track the lineage when we were being able to say like, hey, well, this person, this person is so and so's son, and he's the Smith. So now, like all the Smiths, we know these people are related to these people, and then on top of that, a lot of those traditions, like those things were like kind of like familial, like fathers would raise their sons specifically in their trade, and so you would have trades that like literally lasted entire lineages. So you'd have a family of blacksmiths where you were born, you immediately like at a very young age were doing like assistant labor to your father's trade, which is how your family lived. And then at that point, once you became on your own, you would normally leave town or go to another area and do the exact same thing, or inherit the father's whatever his resources were, and then begin doing the thing for yourself. Like that was the tradition, and that's why those last names.
So I understand.
One second. Shut up. Fanatic. 10 minutes. $10.
Oh my
god. We should actually
You're
put a bunch of
gonna
female
get
last names.
auto-tuned. No, hold on.
Wait, no, I like no.
Teamaker,
Oh God,
hold on.
Fanatic is like the
and,
only
like,
guy
butt
like making the
licker.
other point. Like it's like impossible to have the conversation now.
Don't-
Can I
no,
can I like pay to unmute him?
all
Like
of us,
matter what
wait a
Fanatic
minute.
said.
It's only 10 minutes, and we can discuss, get your other points in, right? And then Fanatic can come swinging afterwards. Okay, so right.
He's gonna get auto-tuned.
While we're waiting, study mate. You're not red shirt guy tonight, but like rocking that fresh fucking cut, dude. You're looking great.
All right.
Okay.
Looking beautiful. Look
So-
at that.
Matt Latin.
It's gorgeous.
I want to give
thank you.
Fanatic homework while he's muted. I would like for him to give me a concrete like demonstration of research indicating that like last names were so important that they were critical for labeling individuals for the purposes of inheritance and all the other things that he was describing, because I'm skeptical, and I'm pretty confident there's societies that did not have the same traditions that function just fine. So
why
like,
do you think they exist then? If they
I
didn't
mean, I
serve
think
any
there's
purpose?
like I think there is something to
They
be
stuck
said
for tax
for
purposes. Like once
well,
you started like writing all the tax.
I mean, like it's possible. Like I don't know what the actual history is, but like
Well,
I'm familiar with
white people would
So-
name themselves after
Well,
jobs.
excuse me. All right, hold on. I really don't want to have to use Fanatic's technique. I'm just saying the same thing over and over again until you guys quiet down and I can talk. So I'm gonna just wait.
You're gonna get
All right.
memed too.
Whoa,
Don't do
whoa.
it.
Well, I know I'm not. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be really good. What I'm saying is that I'd like something very, very concrete, because there's like a lot of like I know that there's last names like Goldsmith and Crafter and whatever else that were attached to specific jobs and activities that the families did, but it could have been just like an arbitrary thing. Like there's people whose last names were like objects, right? Like where they lived and what like what was the color of the moon when they decide to pick a last name or whatever. Like I want evidence that there's some specific purpose and not just it was a quinky dink, basically.
Well, I mean, it does convey some information about the person's identity, right? So, like, yes, you're right that it doesn't have to be their job. It could be like where they come from, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But I think his point was that it conveys some sort of information about the role that this person plays in society.
Well, I mean, like, so he's making a claim, and I'm not accepting the claim until he can verify it. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's not a verified claim. It's like, oh yeah, we did it for this reason.
No, I don't have evidence of the case because my last name is Tiny Hog, and
like the last name of Thompson, for example. Like, so we know that they're like,
it comes from Tom's son.
I mean,
right. So there's a Tom that existed, and there's like, the sons of Tom, right? So like we could say, yes, that is why. So we're identifying something about that family, sure. But like,
you could just go to Merriam-Webster, like. You could just type in last name. Just
right.
Simple Google search.
Right. So like we can look up last names.
Starters jobs.
And there's a lot of problems with what Fanatic says, but that was not one of them.
No, I actually. But the thing, so like, there's an association, and I'm fine that I'm not denying the association. I'm just saying that like he's describing the benefits that could have existed. And like, I don't think those benefits were actually something that was actually happening. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Because like, so last names in the past had lots of different uses. They were used to track, and sometimes only like people of like high up families, like nobility or whatever, were the only ones allowed to have last names because it like was used to like transfer power. There were times when last names were used to identify locations where people came from, what people did as work. There's so many reasons. The big ones just so you don't fuck your family members, probably. But there's a lot of reasons that like last names are used to, or not even last name, family names are used to identify members who are of the same family, right? That being said, it's silly to talk about it because none of those reasons, like most of those reasons, don't still exist today, right? When we're talking about like today and the world we live in, right, for the last like so many years. Like men having a man's last name over like a woman taking the man's last name versus a man taking a woman's last name has nothing to do with what job they have. It has nothing to do with what maybe a little bit with social class. But there's so much more that goes into it than these people were from this place or they have this job. That's not the reality we live in today.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Let's go.
Listen,
Azzy,
reality is whatever you want.
I was going to ask you, Azzy, well, what are your thoughts on this?
You take the last name that whatever has the most generational wealth.
Okay,
yeah, fair enough.
All right.
Glasses. It could be a woman's name. It could be a man's name. It doesn't fucking matter.
But what if
my name? Because my name is dope.
But what if what if like the family with the more wealth name is Cocksmall?
Then you're gonna be Cocksmall, Hans.
You're
gonna be Hans. You're gonna be Hans Cocksmall, and you're never gonna show your face again. You're gonna send your kids to school.
Never name a child Mike.
And then once you take the name, and then your kids go through the 6 year process of changing your last name to have some type of social peace. Okay, if you feel that bad about people's first names are Dick. Okay, so relax about Cocksmall.
That's a pretty big incentive to like marry up, right? To like increase the generational wealth in your family. You marry someone more wealthy than you because your last name sucks, right?
Marriage in general is going to increase your wealth.
Okay, all right. Pause right here. Gotta do it. Hey everyone. Hi. While we're waiting for Fanatic and all of them to get out of all this. If you've been enjoying this content, I hope you've hit that follow button yet. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. It is 6 nights a week, right? We have these conversations. They get apparently extremely heated. This has got more heated than I actually thought it would. Actually, a lot more heated than I thought it would. Hans, you've already missed out on some good stuff already.
I'm just happy that I'm allowed to be heated somewhere,
You can always watch the VOD of this.
Well, then support the channel.
Hit us with a level 5 hot. What was it?
Hype train?
The hype train to get the unlocked Fanatic auto-tuned. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Trying really hard right
Let's
now.
get that,
Hanzi, I
baby, bro.
appreciate it.
Oh boy. Okay.
No,
all
that
right.
was funny. You didn't hear it? He ghostwrites for Cardi B, bro. Guaranteed.
So please support the channel. It is September. We're gonna have more content right after this, right? But please support this channel. Support all the things all the things that we're doing. We're here night after night, every night, giving you content. So, if you appreciate that, sub to the channel. It's 20% off during September. Sub to the channel, or gift bits. Gifting bits helps us out as well, or gift subs. All those things help us out. Let's see if we can start as a hype train. We get 3 individual donors. 3 individual donors. We start as a hype train, and we can help keep this channel sustainable. That's how we do it. It's from kind support by people like you. So I would love to get back to this conversation. But before, it's got to do this, right? So yes, sub to the channel. You will get our emotes, exclamation point emotes in chat. We will have more coming up. Oh boy. There's some drama around the emotes, let me tell you. There's some drama around the emotes. But that's what you get when you sub to this channel. You also get access to ad-free viewing. We've been playing ads during all of this, right? You want to avoid those ads, right? And get all this drama. And do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and sub to the channel so you can avoid all that. Yeah, and then you can also multi-month sub, so you can sub for 3 months, sub for 6 months. That reminds me, so Fanatic's unmuted now. Fanatic's
Yes. Oh my God! Thank God, because these people, if you allow them to talk the entire time, the conversation isn't going to go anywhere because they're not actually saying anything of value. I make points and then they like do everything they can to miss every single point.
Top dog, making gesture. That's not
it wasn't just the idea. It wasn't.
Everyone shut the fuck up. Everyone shut the fuck up. Everyone shut the fuck up. I'm in the middle of a fucking show here. We will get back to that. You can yell at them. Like, once the show is over.
You haven't demonstrated that.
We need 2 more individuals because Lloyd Xmas was so kind as to reach up for 6 months. 2 more individuals to donate. Burj. No. Burj was oh my God. Look, well, look, the hype train's gonna take a while any which way. So, all right, I'm gonna mute Fanatic again. So, all right. Look. All right, so we have one person. We need 2 more individual donors. God damn it, Borge.
I told you to chill.
I feel like Fanatic and I, we can sequence this. I'll be like, I don't care. And at the end of at the start of every care, on the same beat, I'll say it wasn't. So and then we can just we'll start building a rhythm, and then we can all we can join. This would be like a 12-man acapella group. We can do it. We can do it. This would be amazing.
We cannot even accomplish singing of the Happy Birthday song. It doesn't work.
I believe in us.
So we have one more. We have one more individual donor. We start ourselves a hype train, and support this content. Thank you, Chauncey Extreme, for subbing for 9 months. Awfully kind OU. So again, how do you hop up this hype train, right? Sub to the channel. I haven't subbed to the channel yet. Consider doing so. You'll get all the benefits I talked about previously. Or you can donate bits, or you can donate subs because your subs go farther. At least the money does, because it is September, 20% off of gifted subs, and it helps us out so much. Helps us out a ton. So if you consider
Give Prime money.
Yeah.
Give Prime money. He does great work. Give him money.
I try my best. If we get another individual donor within the next 2 minutes, we start off that hype train. Yes. So donate bits, donate subs, or donate or sub yourself, or continue a sub, because as you can see with Liquid Xmas and Chauncey Extreme, continuing subs also helps out the hype train. Or consider I actually already said that. Thank you, Anthony, Anonymous Chair, whoever you are, for the 100 bits. Thank you, Anonymous Chair. awfully kind. My shill is off today, but don't I'm gonna get together. That puts us at a level 1 hype train, right? And Lloyd Xmas, that's awfully kind of you, gifting us up to HanzOfHarkir, right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Damn, dog, you weren't subbed.
The only money I've legitimately spent on Twitch was to mute Fanatic.
That's fucked up.
It's because I love you guys.
So the snake was revealed.
Okay. We have 4 minutes left in this level 1 hype train. 4 minutes left on this level 1 hype train. 50% done. 47% left. Can we get to level 2 hype train? Is that a possibility? Help us out. We're in the middle of it. It's happening right now. We're on a hype train. This is how we keep this channel supported, right? So, yeah, subs to the channel. It is September. Remember, 20% off. What else are you supporting? You're supporting the open panels that we do all the time, right? We are supporting this thing that has this potential, right? Like we let random people win, and we get magic constantly, right? We let Hans in, right? Like
big mistake.
Despite all the reasons why we shouldn't.
What are you trying to say about me?
Despite all the reasons why we shouldn't, we let Hans in, right?
We
do
think
it.
reading
Everyone's favorite rando. Hello, I am here to fuck shit up and sing songs. My latest single. It wasn't
actually
dropping tonight.
Actually, now that you mention it, I wrote you a song, Hans.
You wrote me a song?
Get out of here with this.
Ready? Wait, ready? Here, I'm gonna sing it right now.
You sending men chocolates, you writing men songs.
Suck a dick, suck a dick, suck a big fat dick, suck a dick, suck a big fat dick, suck a dick, suck a dick, suck a big fat dick, suck a dick, suck a big fat dick.
All right, hype train, guys.
It feels very sexual. As a member of the bi community, I will suck any dick I want.
Chauncey Extreme. Thank you.
I feel like this is very anti-bi,
Chauncey Extreme.
I will make it.
Thank you for keeping.
I like a spirited Twitter post about this.
Oh boy. All right, Chauncey Extreme. Thank you for keeping your eyes on the prize and gifting 5 hot tier 1 gifts up to the channel. That's what we're doing here. We're shilling. It's happening, right? So Chauncey Extreme, thank you for gifting 5 hot tier 1 gift subs. 19 subs altogether. It's so kind. Thank you so much, right? Followed by Izzy Box, also gifting 5 subs. Use your first subs to the community. Izzy in a box. Thank you so much. That's awfully kind of you. Thank you for making your very first investment into this community, into what we're trying to build. Because of those 2 kind investments, we're at level 2 hype train, 90% done, and 10% left. Can we get to level 3 hype train? Almost there. 4 minutes left on the clock. Let's see if we can make that happen. Thank you, Chauncey Extreme. Seriously, awfully kind of you. Izzy in a box. Awfully kind of. Yes, and we should be using those Prime Banker emotes here. Let them know how much we appreciate their help, right? Yes. This is why I freaking love the open panels. These things are because we can have all these moments, all these really fun moments.
Shit was open?
Yeah. So if you enjoy all these moments, like is that what do you have? What's your background? I thought maybe we were just like suck a dick all like in a row.
No, it's I don't care.
It could be I suck a dick. Hold on, I'm making the text bigger.
Chat, tell me what has been the best beat of the night? I don't care. It wasn't, or suck a dick. Vote now on your phones. Make a poll.
It's 100%. I don't care. I don't care is an R&B album. Suck a dick is some pop shit. Right? I don't care is R&B. Suck a dick is something pop.
Oh.
Sub for I don't care and 100 bits for suck a dick.
Make a poll, but only allow people to vote with bits.
Okay, we will, and
then when everyone wins, we will drop the song. I will record it. I will make a music video. I will do whatever is necessary. Everyone knows how fast I can talk. I can totally rap. I can do this. I have like.
But it won't make any fucking sense, Hans.
This is what the content you will get, right? If you could help us out, if you help out the channel, right? So now is the time. Jump on in. Remember, if we complete a level 5 hype train, right? Complete a maximum hype train. We'll have extra time at the end. We'll do that just for you. But we got to get there. So 10% left on a level 2 hype train.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Can we get
Only
to level
10%?
3? Only 10%. I know, it's crazy,
Only
right?
10?
It's only 10. I believe
We're
we're
right
almost
there.
We're right there.
All right, Prime.
Prime's lying to you. It's usually
Prime,
better than this.
how
I'm
much
not
do we need to
gonna
get
lie
to
here.
how much do we need to get past this level?
To get past level, I honestly don't
We're
know.
at level 2 currently.
We're at level 2, and we're
at 90%.
90%.
Okay. All right. I'll wait. Let me get my money. Shit. Where's my wallet? I'm.
How inebriated are you,
Like,
Hans?
okay, I'm only
Four beers in.
I'm only 4 beers in. All right. I was gonna
He's
say I
a
was
big
gonna finish
enough
the hype
dude.
train
He'd
if
be
we
alright.
unmuted Fanatic early, but I can't find my wallet.
Okay.
So it's not in my. I'm
How
wearing
convenient.
pajamas.
How
Oh, that's
convenient.
mad
Where's
convenient, dog.
my wallet at? There's no.
Why is
I mean,
your
like the
wallet
pockets are
sitting on
small.
your-
got it.
What am I supposed to do?
Thank
Like,
you.
What?
Thank
What
you,
are we
taking
looking at?
L's.
I didn't know that was this was
What are we
that kind of
looking at?
stream.
It's like
Hans throws all his money at League. What are
My
you talking
wallet
about?
is
I'm just
stuck.
saying.
What the fuck? What the fuck am I
we
seeing?
passed.
What the-
We passed.
What is
like,
this?
the hype train right when I showed
body
ass.
into
I
the
don't think that's a
cup.
coincidence.
That's
Sorry.
the suction
We're on
cup.
level 3.
What
We
the fuck
passed
is
the other
this?
one when he did
I'm
the suck a
sorry.
dick
Can
song
we please
too.
not-
When
this
Mad Live
is-
dropped that
Yeah,
shit.
what is
Oh.
this? Holy shit! Like, get this off my fucking stream. Like, the
Why are
fuck?
you putting cupping on stream?
Like the fuck? Get that off my stream. Anyway.
YC, stop muting Fanatic, Jesus Christ!
Oh shit!
There won't be a discourse if you keep muting him. This man is a lone soldier fighting 10 people, 10 men at the same time, and you won't even let him fucking defend himself. Jesus Christ!
Alright, we are at a level 3 hype train because of taking L's. Thank you for
Of
saving
course
the
I'm not
hype
hypocritical.
train.
I've never done that in my life. I've never muted Fanatic. What are you talking about? Never
So
happened.
what is he even arguing for?
Thank
Is he
you.
just arguing just to argue?
Thank you.
What's his position?
Mean Cuisine for using your Prime
You
gaming
let him-
on the channel.
Okay, okay. One thing. All right. Like, I don't agree with Fanatic at all on this. I think it's a really terrible argument. But like, dude, he's been making points all night. They're bad points, but they're fucking. If you don't see he actually has an argument,
Okay.
even if it's one that I disagree with, then you just haven't been paying attention.
Okay.
Like,
We gotta get through this.
Hans, you think people
we
learn
gotta
to
get
read
this.
in
Everyone's
school?
aware of
Everyone,
Fanatic's
shut your fucking faces.
no, they learned to read by League of Legends. You
We
shut
are
your
level
fucking
3
mouth.
hype train.
I learned so much math
Shut your
today.
pie
Like,
holes. We have level 3 hype train. This is the chill part. This is the part where we pay for all
everyone
this.
give Prime money,
Oh
or
my
I'm
God.
going to get worse.
Okay. Oh god. We have less than 3 minutes left.
The
Let's
faster you
let's-
prime,
I'm getting another beer, and if I don't see fucking money in that hype train by the time I get back,
Oh god.
I'm gonna start rendition 2 of It
We
Wasn't.
have a level 3.
And no, that's not technically a
hype
threat, it's a
train.
promise, because that's a
11%
banger
done.
fucking music.
89%
Alright,
left. Can we get to a level 4 hype train? Thank you, Mean Cuisine, for resubbing with your Prime Gaming. Yes, you can use your Prime Gaming. That's if you have Amazon Prime. You have a thing called Prime Gaming, and you can use that to sub to the channel for free. Absolutely free. If you aren't an Amazon Prime member, we still have options. And you have discounts galore. Yes, because of September, you can sub 20% off for new subs, or gifting subs 20% off, or of course you can multi-month sub for 3 months or sub for 6 months, and you'll get discounts as well. Subs all around, or discounts all around for those subs. So consider doing any of those, or just gifting bits, helping out the channel, moving that hype train along. Remember, maximum hype train. We complete a maximum hype train, then of course we will have bonus time just for you, our good supporters, right? But we're almost there. We're getting there, right? A minute and a half left. 90 seconds left. Can we get to a level 3 hype train? Do we have any more heroes in chat who would be so kind as to help us out, as to make that happen, right? So remember, subs to channel 4, delivery, which we have on Mondays, right? That's our closed panel. We have Hans there every so often, and it's it's fun.
Am I one of the top donors for that one time? Do it again. Who wants? You run around, I run around.
Oh, it's a good song.
We're
I know
gonna
that one
mute,
from
mute,
the
mute
book.
around.
Please pay to mute Hans. Please pay to mute Hans.
my
Someone.
God.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
it. I'll get worse.
We
This is
have
beer
our
number
book-
5.
we have-
This is a Guinness Drought Stout. I'm excited.
We have
Are you
less
excited?
than a minute left on the hype train.
This is your brain after league.
Oh my god! Yeah, this is why you don't play that
Oh,
game.
that is
We have less than a minute left in the
I was
hype train.
expecting.
Do we have any more heroes in chat who can help us out? Help us out and get to a level 4 hype train. Right? Subs to the channel, gift subs to the channel, or gift bits.
Oh my
All
God.
great ways to support
Beautiful.
the community. Oh my god, these people are so fucking. All right. Anyway.
It's beer tasting night. This is a banger.
Thank
Guys,
you,
like, I was expecting.
Dancegram, for gifting 1,000 bits. Oh my god, we can't keep. We cannot. Sorry, we can't do that. I'll save that Dancegram for the future for something else.
Dancing? I can dance.
Less than we have seconds left on the clock. Looks like we're not gonna make it though. Thank you, Dancegram, for putting us at 30% of a level 3 hype train. Helps a lot of time. Though we didn't make it. Really appreciate it, Dancegram. we can't do that. But I'm gonna save your a mute for some other time. And thank you for the 100 bits. Keep the mute. Sorry, but. All right. Well, we're done with the hype train for now. We'll try again later on. See if we can get this content paid for. But thank you for the ones who did support. Thank you, Dancegram, for another 100 bits as well. Thank you, Mean Cuisine, Taking L's, Chauncey Extreme, Izzy in a Box. Who else? Anonymous Cheer, and Lloyd Xmas. Yeah, I think those are all it. And then, of course, our top 5 gifters. Instagram. Thank you for the 100 bits. I appreciate it. Leah, 130 subs. Rackus Network, 70 subs. Zonia Dead, 80 subs. Doobie, 55 subs. Boji, 50 subs. Thank you to our kind supporters. On the bit side, Leah, 50,000 bits. To
whatever Leah's last name is, let me get that, bro. Let me get Leah's last name.
Oh boy. Nick P. Brett, 9,000 bits. Mad Latin, thank you so much, Mad Latin. 6,916 bits. HanzOfHarkir, 5,000 bits. Still at the he doesn't hear me. All right, whatever. Skanky up 5,000 bits, and Doobie also tied with 5,000 bits. Thank you so much. You can also help the channel with the PayPal button if you help out the channel and gift more money, right? Or more of your money gets to us if you use the PayPal button. So use that below. Exclamation for donate in chat is a way to donate if you're on mobile. That's another way of doing that. And exclamation for social for our social media. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter for Twitter updates, for channel updates. Jump to our Discord where we're having this conversation, all other conversations. And subscribe to our YouTube. And you will see the VODs of all this good stuff. All right, we're back into it. I was complimenting you, Hans, before, and then you really fucking missed it.
Sorry, someone licked me a VOD, and I didn't want to like disrupt you by it, so I just muted and deafened. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
I mean, if you're saying nice things about me, I appreciate. I really am sorry.
Wait, you didn't want to interrupt Prime? That was you when you're not trying to interrupt?
Wait. Oh, I wasn't. Oh, yeah. Let's just go with that and say that I muted and deafened myself for all of your safety. I did that. I'm just. He's back! Thank God! If someone mutes, whoever fucking mutes Fanatic, I will bully you for the rest of the night. Jesus Christ, let the man go. There's gonna be no fucking conversation if you mute Fanatic, all right?
Thank you. Yeah, so look, it's real simple.
That's not true.
I really feel like a lot of times you guys are like intentionally mischaracterizing my point or like not fully engaging with it, right? So I never ever said that this is only done just for people being able to identify who works at this job and blah 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 blah. But I do think that was part of the initial idea behind it. Like, and someone saying that like it's conjecture that people use last names in order to track families and like and note license. If you're that ignorant about like if you're
misrepresent my argument. I'm not letting you finish that. Go ahead. You can be a broken record, but don't you dare mischaracterize my argument. No, you are not going to mischaracterize my argument. You're 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 not going to mischaracterize my argument. I'm not going to stop if you don't stop. No, I'm not going to accept this. No, I'm not letting you.
Everyone shut up. Everyone quiet. Don't hear your dog. Stop talking. Please, thank you. Right? Look, Fanatic, we'll get back to you in a second. No, how has he mischaracterized your argument? Then
In
Fanatic
10 minutes,
responds to
you
that.
mean?
Because he is suggesting that I am ignoring the importance of tracking lineage, which is not
I didn't
true
say
at
that.
all.
I did not. What are you talking about? You
Okay,
literally
and
said the argument was
look at the
conjecture.
video.
That's what
We
words
can
you
go
said.
back
That
and
came
visit,
out of
and
your
literally
mouth.
here,
You
no,
typed it to
you
me.
are
You
actually,
actual liar.
no.
You're a lying little cuck that won't actually admit the point that you actually
I'm
made.
sorry. I'm the cuck. I'm
Disgusting.
sorry. No, you're disgusting.
Yeah,
You're
you
just
won't
trying
even
to
admit
run
what you
all
actually
over
said.
me.
And now,
No,
when
I
I'm
literally
pointing
posted in
out
chat.
the words that
You
you
literally
actually
posted in
said,
chat.
then you
No,
literally
you
are going to sit
are
here and pretend as
paraphrasing
if
what I
like I'm
said in chat.
mischaracterizing it.
I am
Sure, of
not
course
letting
you are.
you.
You're not actually
No,
interested in an actual
no, you're not
conversation
interested in
because
that
you know that I'm
conversation
actually
yourself.
making you
You
look
don't
bad
know.
because the words
All
actually
you
came out of
want
your
is
mouth.
your
You
traditional
actual liar.
submissive
You're
wife.
ridiculous.
No,
If you
you're
actually
doing
wanted to
nothing
engage
right.
the point
You
that I
are
was making, you could
intentionally
somewhere,
trying to
but
be
you have no goal. You
obnoxious
have no
about
interest in
this.
actually doing that
No,
because you and I both
you have
know
no idea
you're
what I
like
want.
literally
You have
standing on
no
a
idea what I
pallet
want.
you
We
actually
can
have
keep
no idea
talking at
what
each
you're
other. I
talking
can go
about,
along
and you're
as
completely
I can go
ignorant.
as long
You're
as you want.
absolutely
No,
I'm your
ridiculous.
you're
conscience.
ignorant.
Yeah, but
You are
you
more
can't
than
go as
ignorant.
long as me.
You
My
are
last name is
actually.
Lyman. That length comes.
I've
My
been
last
single
name
for
is
Look,
Ken
all right,
Rush
whatever.
Mask.
Like, look,
out
dude.
of
I've
If
been
you
here.
actually
single
want to
for
talk
Yeah,
20
about
get
it, we
out
can
of
talk
here, bro.
about
You're
it. We can
ridiculous.
no.
You're ridiculous.
Whatever, dude.
I'm your
No,
conscience.
you're ridiculous.
I don't
Don't be
need to
silly.
talk to you at all. Bro, you
My
literally don't
lineage comes
exist to
from a
me. You're a
cervix.
number.
No. Oh,
Anyways,
okay.
the
I'm
point
sorry. I'm
is,
such a
the
number.
point that I was
No,
making, the point that I was making, Top Dolphin, since I'm no longer talking to Mad Aladdin,
Oh
the point that I was making, Top Dolphin,
I'm your conscience.
wasn't specifically that it's just for like being able to like demonstrate a person's job. There was also the purpose of like being able to track a lineage. Like in that, I think also like that's the portion that still exists today. Are there like still like people with last names that like that will actually? Are there still people who are directly related to like some of their like some of their jobs, for example? Like you with really powerful and elite families, you'll have that, right? So you'll have the Kellogg family. So you'll know like, oh, this person is this person, right? Like that applies there. But like as obviously like when people of not like insane amounts of wealth and things, when they take last names, then it stops being primarily about that and becomes more about lineage and things like that. I'm losing my voice. I feel like I'm going hoarse. So anyway, I think that still exists today, and it still has its value. It isn't like again, there's nothing, as I said from the very beginning, nothing intrinsic about like what a last name does, right? So it's not like I would say, oh, we have to keep them because it like changes the characteristics of the people or anything stupid like that. It really is just that this was the reason why we did it in the past, and the only reason why I brought that up was just to contend with the asinine point that some ignoramus person made that like, oh, last names were only done for ownership or something stupid like that. That was my point.
So I agree with you 90% of the way. But the big thing is all of this is true except for the fact that like none of the things you say necessarily have to do with like the gender stuff, right? So the reason men's last names were passed and not women's were because a lot of times women weren't allowed to have jobs in the past. They weren't allowed to own property. They weren't seen as people, right? And so like they passed the man's last name along instead of the woman's. And a lot of societies that did like passing last names along.
Sure.
This wouldn't be true in like places where they assign last names based on like where you lived, maybe, but like yeah.
Well, no, but sure, like that, like a lot of that stuff. Again, like last names. Sometimes when people didn't have specific last names, because there was a point in time when like last names were only given to like people like royalty, and so in those cases, when like once those things kind of like changed and people started giving like last names depending on whatever. Like I remember reading this book in like 7th grade, and it was like somebody his last name was Crookshank, and he was really offended by it, and then they were like, no, that's not like an offensive term. Like this is just like something like last names typically are given to people if you. Like just to kind of like associate with what, like, because he was a cripple, and so he was really offended by that, and they were like, that it's not like that's not an intentionally like harmful thing, and so I feel like yes, like there are plenty of times nowadays where like a last name is going to differ like from that, like where like I mean, so when those things happened and they started giving last names to people like that were associated with like other like notable characteristics, so in that case like he got that last name and that became his like official last name, Crookshank, but like the idea is like that this is historically what the last names names were typically done for. It was to track lineage, and it was typically associated with like the job or something that you did. And because these things were large familial operations, then typically it like helped to understand exactly who this person was and what their lineage was and what their function was in society. I will totally concede 100%, or it's not even a concede because like, I don't think this was ever contended, that that's not like actively what's happening today, or it's not necessary today, because that's not typically the function of society. But that's
So why are we talking about
But
this?
all of that can be true, and it can still be a part of like a patriarchal system, right?
Sure, it was
and
patriarchal. I don't understand. I don't believe that just because it was patriarchal that it's somehow bad.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I don't think that like looking to the past and saying like, oh, this happened because of patriarchal reasons. I mean, it's the same. That's the same argument. Like, I kind of want to contend with Amanda on this, but she left as soon as I got on. But like, that's the same argument. People say, oh, like women shouldn't like stay at home with their children because in the past women were forced to stay home with their children. It's a really bad argument. You shouldn't make like because this was historically used bad means that you can't do it today.
So,
but that's not even the point, though, right? Like the point would be that like instead of not doing it because it was something that was bad in the past, it's not doing it because it's an inconvenience. And the idea that you can judge someone for not being willing to take their husband's name is pretty fucked up. That's the point. It has nothing to do with, oh, this is bad, so we shouldn't necessarily do this ever again anymore. It's literally like, why are women being forced to do it in order to feel to please Fanatic, basically, is where
You're
I'm
in
at.
trouble now,
But
Top
anyway,
Wolf, and you're in trouble
But I
now.
mean, so what
I'm actually gonna bail because I need to
Thank
do something.
goodness.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
All right.
God.
Wait, when do we not take like historical context and
hello?
apply it to where we're at now? Like,
Wait,
why is that a bad
historical
thing?
context can be important, but like you also have to look at the actual practice, right?
But the practice within the historical context is kind of an issue.
Yes,
I mean, it
but
was.
like the idea that like if a woman, right?
But
like,
the problem
I
still
agree
falls
that
on the
women shouldn't be
women.
forced to like take like
They're not
their husband's
forced,
last
though.
name.
What are you talking
But
about
like if a
forced?
woman chooses to take her husband's last name, we shouldn't like demonize her for it because it's like this bad thing because of the history behind it, right? Like
I totally
my
agree
whole
with
thing is
that.
that like this should be a conversation between like the partners and they should come to an agreement. And whatever the
But
agreement they come to is like should be to them and not to like the societal pressures that surround it.
exactly, but the conversation or lack thereof is not happening. And so yes, we can encourage people to or women to be more feminist or whatever you want to call it and do what they want to do. Yet there's still society pressures and obligations that are applied there. So it's something that like even for me, for instance, it's something I never considered until I had to go through this shit.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait,
And like
pressures from
this also
who?
brings kind of
Overall
I wanted to
society?
poke a Fanatic a little bit, which was like when he was talking earlier about like men are supposed to be like they're the breadwinners in society and they have all these pressures due to like being head of households. I would say that like while that is the reality we live in, we should try to get to a place where like a lot of these stresses don't exist. Men kill themselves at like ridiculous rates today. And like I don't think that like upholding a system necessarily, which this is a part of it, in which puts all this like undue stress on men to like be the head of household or be like the breadwinner or like represent the family is necessarily a good thing. And like it comes from both sides. It comes from like not pressuring women into this, but it also comes from like making it safe for men to feel like it's okay to like step back and not get ridiculed for it.
Yeah, but that's not the
I
problem.
agree with
Though.
that.
It's not necessarily like the thing is, this is where I feel like every time leftists and idiots online always like really ruin things. When you see a problem, when you design a system, again, literally no system ever that's ever created is going to be perfect by man. No system created by man will ever be perfect. Okay, so like the idea becomes that when we design a system, we design them as good as we possibly can, and as these systems start to break down or we see like maybe gaps and lapses in a system, you reform and repair around that thing. So it's like batting down the hatches. you're right, or whatever the phrase is, whatever. So like the idea is like when you come up with a great system that's doing amazing things like marriage, and you see, there seems to be a breakdown in marriage because women seem to feel like they're owned and like they don't have an actual value, or like people are dismissive of their personhood. You don't then say, okay, well, I guess maybe we just don't do marriage anymore. Instead, it'd probably be more reasonable to say, okay, well, if that's the case, then let's give women the property or give women like a sense of ownership, allow them to vote in their own, give them suffrage, give them like rights, give them all of these things. But that doesn't mean let's get rid of marriage altogether. Like that's really stupid. And in the same sense, like you don't go and say, well, it seems like there were some negative practices associated with like last names, like even though there were good ones too, like helping people establish lineage and things like that, and giving people a sense of community and family and all of these things. Like you don't just throw out the entire system altogether. It'd probably be like, if you're saying, and it sound like the only good argument, or it's not even really a good argument, the only valid argument that I think was worth entertaining from Amanda thus far was something about like the undue pressure and like and how difficult it is. So maybe we can have an argument about streamlining the process, even though I really know that the only process that you're really going to be doing is like literally like changing your bank name, changing what's it called, getting your birth certificate, I mean your marriage certificate, and there's like literally like eight things that you have to do. It's not incredibly strenuous. You don't even need a lawyer to do it. You can do it your freaking self. My cousin did it. Everyone in my family done it. The last person have been married. So like it's not really a crazy process. And that's the only argument that she's really brought forth. It's like, oh well, it's the pressure on women. Like how is that a big pressure?
Can I ask how you feel about like voting ID laws then, like in regards to that?
I don't think voting ID.
Because I feel like it.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it somewhat has some of the same arguments in regards to how difficult these things can be.
No. What do you think the intentionality was behind the voting laws, Amanda? Do you know?
I have my own ideas,
Okay.
but I don't want to go quite into that.
Sure. Well, I guess in the one case, one of the really beautiful ones, in the North Carolina one, didn't the Supreme Court say that they threw it out because specifically that those people asked for voting records by race, for racial voting record data, and then targeted the black vote with surgical precision? Like, so there was an intentionality there, right? And like, have we not seen that in plenty of these cases when they created these voting laws, they then did, where they created specific ID laws, they started like shutting down DMVs in specific areas in order to make sure that the people who were voting had to travel long distances just to get their ID, hoping that by that,
no.
That never happened.
I agree with all. No. I agree with all that. I think it's very complex and nuanced. And when it comes to
complex, it's
like,
really
the thing is, I like want to focus on is strictly the ID, having to get getting an ID.
Different question. So just do I think that having an ID or creating some sort of law requiring people to have ID is problematic in and of itself? No. But it seems like most of the time the bad actors that are doing this are specifically doing it and then doing other things with it that then are problematic. The idea that people should just have an ID to vote, we have to have an ID to drive, we have to have an ID to do so many things. So no, I don't think that in and of itself would be problematic. No.
Let's go.
But do you understand the obstacles that are there in order to get IDs?
Yes, but the obstacles are so minimal that in most cases I would have no problem with the voter ID law. It's just that typically the people who are in favor of this thing, they're doing it with a specific purpose. And also I don't see a need in creating a law around something that seems like it's not that it's not a problem. You don't fix problems that don't exist. And it doesn't seem like voter fraud is a super duper big problem. Like I said, it doesn't seem like it's really a problem at all. So it sounds like there's no reason to fix this. And if someone is sufficiently motivated to fix this thing when we know that there's no actual problem, then it makes me question their intentions and why they were trying to fix this thing in the first place. And now we have actual data that where we see all of these different states imposing all these draconian laws around it that sound like it's sound like they're doing it with bad intentions. But again, this is a crazy digression when the point that I'm making is it is not incredibly inconvenient to change your last name such that we should be saying, oh, we need to redo or rethink the entire system because it's problematic towards women. Right?
So why don't you change your last name?
I guess that's where we disagree because it is incredibly inconvenient. Like it is so fucking inconvenient.
I want to let in someone new. No one, and then Hans, and then Melen.
All right. Thank you.
Hello.
Apparently been waiting for a while. In regards of the marriage in modern times, you do realize that marriage in modern times come with a plethora of contracts. And also wanted to ask you, we're talking about spiritual marriage or marriage in the sense of the contract? marriage.
To who?
You.
Well, I guess I'd be talking about legal marriage specifically. Like, I don't think like introducing like something as arbitrary as like spiritual or spirituality
I see.
or religion would be probably conducive to this conversation.
So yeah, modern marriage and taking people's women taking their husband's last name, it's a choice after all. That they can drop it or take it. It always has been a choice everywhere.
Well, it wasn't
it's
always.
just
No, it
simple as
wasn't.
that.
There was a big point. No, there was a big
Right
point.
in modern days, yes, but also
There was a
we're
big point
talking
that
about the
wasn't
West in the Middle East and Africa, areas that people consider to be regressive and backward. Women always were taking always had their last names, even during funerals. Fun fact: this is from Sudan. During funerals, people will be pronounced with both their mother's name and their father's name. So it will go like a tree, a women tree and a men tree, like a mother and a father tree from their grandmother, great grandmother, etc., etc.
Wait, I'm sorry. It sounds like you're literally just making the most banal point that it sounds like all you're saying is just,
No,
in
excuse
funerals.
me.
It sounds like all you're saying is just in
It
funerals.
depends on the culture. It depends on the culture. It depends on the culture. It depends. Excuse me, gentlemen. I'm not here to scream at people and.
I got you. If you're not here to scream at people, then shut up and let me speak.
I'm just gonna do this.
Let no one finish his point. No one came in here.
Okay, I got you. I thought he'd already made it, but keep on going with your nonsense and gish gallop. Keep going.
Yeah. Thank you. You're indeed a gentleman. Very civilized of you. Learn some manners.
Okay. Go ahead,
Back to
finish
the
your
main
point.
point. Also, in last
point.
names, tracking lineage. Actually, Turkey, when they got modernized and Ataturk took over, he made people pick last names due to the fact that it was very hassling for individuals to track their names from the current point to the back points of the Ottomans lineage. Some people would had their names in the 11 figures, like 11 names just simultaneously going backward to each other. So he made this modern system and gave them a list of over 1,000 last names to pick from that are not related to each other by any sense. Also happened in Korea. People were allowed to pick last names. It was preserved for royalties and nobility. You're actually right about that. But also, when they opened it for peasants, guess what happened? People started picking the name Kim as their last name because it was a very renowned name. I think I made my points. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to address the first point that you made, and then the rest of it was just all gish gallop, so I'm not going to address the rest of it since you wanted to go on for 10 minutes. Really simply.
Very civilized, by the way.
Simply pointing out that because people were doing something like in a funeral and detailing someone's lineage, that does nothing to do with whether or not people were actually taking a last name. They still do that even now, right? Like we're in someone's, whatever, they'll tell you who they were surviving from, and then they'll tell you who the lineage is, and they'll tell you who their paternal grandparents were, who their maternal, and so on and so forth. They do that all the time. Like, just simply pointing out that the people were still able to be cognizant of someone's lineage does not have anything to do with the actual conversation about who was taking someone's or whether they were abandoning their surname. That's such a stupid point. Anyone else have anything intelligent to say? Because this guy got nothing.
So we'll go to
I got something because women still keep their parents' name in the Middle East, unlike the West. They aren't culturally forced. Used to be culturally forced to take their husband's name. In the Middle East and Africa, they take their own name with them into their husband's house. Seemingly, like, I'm a very polite person, but you lack manners altogether, gentlemen. I think you should learn some.
Oh, sure.
I'm pretty sure.
That's fine. Like, so I'm looking it up right now, and it does seem like women do take the surname of their parents in Sudan. So I don't know what you're. I mean, the surname of their husbands in Sudan. So I don't know what you're talking about.
They don't.
I'm also raising my hand, but I shouldn't make that symbol for a long period of time.
And you won an award for that. Amazing. So anyway, no one, are you done your point?
Yeah, I'm done my point.
You didn't have a good one.
So let's go to Hans.
I always say facts.
We'll go to Hans, Mad Latin, Azzy. I'm not sure if your hand is up or.
Yeah, man, that's the black hand, bro.
See, my dude, what's up?
Xana, is there a hand up? Okay, sure. Palms out, like you're doing this. I don't know what this means. Palms out the palms, okay, buddy? All right, go ahead, Hans.
All right, so gang, like, so what Fanatic I think is asking for, and what I feel like no one failed to present, although I don't think he understands exactly why. It's not your fault. It's like, you demonstrated that other societies do things differently, and that's totally fine. But the argument that I believe that Fanatic is making is specifically that what's the right word? 1 second, sorry. I'm also playing Magic the Gathering. Is that Fnatic is looking at this from a spectrum of like utility, of like there's benefits to having like a specific way that we like remember lineages, because medical history, because like all that sort of stuff. And that is a specific argument based on utility. And no one is saying that there are other systems that do things differently, but that system is still based on utility. If you say like if we had a matriarchal society and it was passed on through the mother, that is the exact same in terms of function. So, but the issue is that Fnatic isn't accepting, and I would say probably like decently so, is that you have to explain why it's enough of a reason to change. Like, is there like a good reason to change from say like a patriarchal name passed down to a matriarchal name passed down?
Because we don't need to know the lineage of the matriarchal side. Is that what you're saying?
No. Oh my god. No.
Medical record number. Like we don't care about the medical records in the mother's side. Like what?
Madeline, I'm specifically. Please, I'm specifically saying that having a patriarchal line with people marrying into it is the same level of utility as a matriarchal line with people marrying into it. So what Fnatic needs us to present is a reason as to why a change in the system, which I assume we're not going to matriarchy, we're going to go to something else. We have to explain why the something else is better. So you have to attack the points of utility inside the argument.
But that's not the point. Because
that is the point.
Debate,
wait,
that wasn't though. Hold on. Because the point is, hold on. I stated that the couples should just do whatever they want. And Fnatic is disparaging that, saying that women are supposed to submit to the man. He said that. Yes. He actually said that. Right?
I disagree with that part, but like, I'm answering the other things.
Do you?
I've been here the entire time, Mad. Let's shut the fuck up.
So do you actually know what the next point was?
I didn't know that he said that. I was answering.
Well, thank you for explaining to me what the next point was without actually knowing what the next point was. I really appreciate it, Hans.
He can misrepresent my point like that all he wants to, but that's literally not been my point.
He said it. You can look at the video. He's talking about how I'm bad faith, but he's bad faith.
He is very much bad faith.
Did you not say women should submit? Did you not say it? You said it.
Okay.
He can misrepresent my
Who said it?
I'm confused. Fnatic, I'm going to you, Fnatic. Hold on.
This is crazy to me.
So I'm asking because I heard that you said that women, our wife should submit to their husband.
Sure.
So
I said those words.
Okay.
Yes.
So then.
And hold on. That was literally in response to Hans. That was literally in response to Mad Laden talking about like the failure of him and his wife to come to an agreement on the last name. And so I said, oh yeah, she should have submitted to you, and then you guys wouldn't have had that problem. Has that been the argument that I've been trying to get addressed this entire time? No, it's a non sequitur that was really just attached to his non sequitur story. So that's why I'm saying he can try his best to derail the conversation into his failure if he wants to, but that's not been my argument. Can we actually have an actual conversation?
I am proud of the decision we ended up making.
Okay,
it's not a failure.
It's a failure to me.
It's a failure to you.
Anyway, can we have an actual conversation about the argument that I've actually been giving this entire time? What a mercy.
You're insisting that women should submit to men. It's your problem, not mine. I am proud of the decision we made.
I ain't the one struggling with that. It does sound like your problem. Well, whose problem was it? Whose problem was it? To come up with some crazy arbitrary system where y'all are Who's really struggling here, buddy? Who's really the one that's really having a problem?
Shut up, everyone, shut up.
What are you talking about?
We're not getting anywhere. Oh my God. I think everyone should pay attention to Nathan's picture. What is going on?
He looks like he just came from a wedding, bro.
Yeah.
What's up?
I had no idea who that was.
That picture's from today.
I thought it was.
You need to submit to that picture right there, you know?
You see,
submit to him. You want to see that? Nathan Gang?
It's going to be Manny Pacquiao's campaign.
I thought he was
in between two.
Between two friends. I thought he was here to fix my computer. I'm like, oh, okay.
What website did you get like women take the last names of their husbands in Sudan? Can you send the link?
Oh, I can look it up again.
Okay.
It's
Please send the link because they use the Islamic system, and the Islamic system you don't take your husband's last name.
I didn't finish my point before like Matt like went off.
Okay.
So like
You did.
like so specifically. So
I would. Now we're going down this Mad Latin sex like
no, Fanatic. Don't talk to Matt. Like talk to me. Like I don't know what you said before I got here. I'm just responding to what you and like no one said like after I got here. So
okay,
I would like question for like entire panel, just like show of hands. Would we say that in terms of like just basic utility, like recognizing family line through either matriarchal or patriarchal has about like the same basic utility?
Sure, I would agree that it has the same utility. However, the problem is that like at this point, because of the fact that we've been doing it in this way to arbitrarily switch, like randomly, I think it would create some problems. Number one, like and yeah, I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah,
one,
that's totally fair, and I think that was like that was what I was trying to get at. So we have to.
And then the other main point was that typically, as I said earlier, I think the idea that we would probably be having some sort of reward, right? Because husbands typically are the ones that are bearing the vast majority of the financial burden. Like as I said before, if a family fails, when a family fails financially, instead of us looking at it like, oh man, just whatever, they fell on hard times, we're normally going to blame the husband. It is a husband's responsibility to provide for the vast majority of society. Now, there are people who maybe might be outliers and maybe change that. There are times where women can out earn men, but in the majority of situations, there is an expectation that the husband is the one to provide. And so then the responsibility is on the husband. And if the responsibility is on the husband, it makes sense then why we would probably attach the last name to the person who bears the responsibility for the condition and the results, whatever, of the family.
All right. So
and I disagree with everything you said about the men being like the head. So I can completely. So I would say that
you disagree that that's the case. You disagree that's the case right now? Because I'm sorry, I'm not giving my opinion. I said a whole bunch of facts, right? So I made one fact.
There's nothing factual about what you said.
Where is the fact that you are rewarding men for taking on?
About what you said. You're just rambling out of your ass.
Either you're not listening or not capable. I literally mentioned a bunch of
I know what you
facts.
said. I would like to have a small back and forth about it. So
I got you. So address the facts that I said. You said you disagree with me. So do you disagree with the facts that I said? Because those are not opinions.
There's no facts in what you're saying. It's just rambling, man. Rambling and monologue. You're just doing shit in this voice chat.
Shut up. Everyone shut up. Oh my god, we literally cannot have this conversation. It has to be one at a time. We cannot make any progress if it's not one at a time. Like you guys are doing this whole thing where it's like everyone let's talk all at once, right? No one fucking hears you, right? You only hear the sound of your own voice at that point. So okay.
Prime. One thing I have to say is like as this hits the internet, your sexual market value of all these men is slowly going down over the screaming, and I don't think anybody wants your last name at this point. Y'all need to relax.
All right, let's go. Hans and Fanatic, finish it back and forth, and then we got to move on. Other people are waiting.
So you disagree with those facts, Hans, that like men are like typically the breadwinners in these situations, and therefore bear the financial responsibility?
Okay, so right now, I just looked this up. It says nearly half of women now earn as much or more than their partners, according to a survey from like a TD Ameritrade. 21% of women surveyed said they make more than their partners, and 26% said they make. Yeah, so, okay, it's combined. So 21% said they made more, and 26% said they made the same amount. So what I'm asking then is, right?
Can we find some actual studies on the actual figures? Like as opposed to
where are your studies? Where are your studies? Can you show your studies?
I really
don't
thought
ask
this was
for
a basic
studies.
truism.
Don't ask for
I got you.
studies.
You're right. So look, here it is. I thought this was such a basic truism that I wouldn't need to find this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the work right now. You guys can talk amongst yourselves and just talk about random disparate nonsense, and I will find this. And if it's true, then I'm gonna flip the hell out if what I'm saying is true. Because I thought this would be so basic.
I just had like a Google search.
Where's the link for the Sudanese
Fanatic,
last
I can
name,
agree
by the
with
way?
you right now that men like make more than their partners right now. I agree with you with that statement. I'm asking a question about like the argument of which you made. So what I'm asking then is if right now say a fifth of women make more than their partners and a quarter make the same amount, at what point because like right now women are making more, men are making like traditionally less because men are like.
Oh, that's crazy! So it looks like the numbers are exactly what the hell I was talking about. Nearly 30% of American wives in heterosexual dual income marriages earn more than their husbands. 30%. What the frick are we talking about? We've always known that Victoria women in these situations are more the breadwinners. How the frick are you trying to beg me to prove basic truisms? We already knew that men are literally actually trying to have this conversation. You're lingering it more than what I said you can get to. Because we knew this. You knew it. Get out of here. This is stupid. Intellectual idiots. We're all just trying to be legal in conversation because you're not actually interested in getting this actual conversation. Now, every step of the way, you want me to stop and come up with something, prove something. Get out of here.
We're muting.
Freak
out of here. Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm done talking to you too. Your study, the study that you said is that 30% of housewives.
I'm done. This is stupid.
No, Fanatic. 30% of housewives in your study said they made more than their husbands. The study that I found said that only 21% of women said they made more than their partners. So our study, Fanatic, they seem to they disagree about 9%, but your study says that more women make more than their partners than mine does. So here's my question, right? So my question is, right? Part of the reason, as you said, as to why we need to make sure that that in this specific case, that men make more than women, so that's why that's part of the reason why they keep their last name. If it gets to say 50%, or if women start making more, would you be more in favor of men taking women's last names? Because right now the projection, so it's no, so it's immaterial to the actual argument.
So listen, here's what happened. You guys, I made a point that I thought was a basic truism, just like I did about the last name thing. And what you guys are trying to do is really ridiculous. Everything I'm saying is absolutely rooted in truth. And I don't know why I need to prove to you that last names were typically given in specific points in time with the jobs that people were working. Nor should I have to prove to you.
I wasn't responding. I was talking about a different
nor should I have to prove to you something as basic as the fact that we know that men out-earn women in the vast majority of relationships, and so men are the breadwinners. So if that's the point, so if that's true, but now I got idiots in the call right now, literally trying to insist that I go look up something that we all know to be freaking true. It sounds like you guys are just beleaguering a conversation because you're not actually interested in having a conversation. We had Amanda Smash earlier, literally going in every time I'd make an argument, she would sit there and say stupid stuff like, slavers used it for a reason at one point, and as if that had anything to do with the conversation. You guys don't know how to have that actual conversation. This is stupid.
Fanatic, here was the question.
Look, Hans, I'll talk to you one-on-one another time. Maybe Hans can host a conversation about this or something. I'll talk to you, but I don't want to talk in a panel with a bunch of idiots that don't know basic stuff. Like the fact that you can out-earn women in these situations. I told you idiots, if I had to look that up and prove something that I knew was a basic truism, I was going to be freaking pissed. I am. This is stupid. Why would I have to prove something like that to you? Are you guys really that ignorant? Actually get some education.
Excuse me. No. Excuse me, please. I would like to.
He ran away.
I would like to say something, guys. No, excuse me, everybody. Please.
Everyone, I completely disagree with Fanatic, but just to be fair, being a single person arguing against 11 people is extremely difficult. So let's just understand that. I want the specific question that I wanted to ask was that he said before that men traditionally earn more than women, and it's currently true that what he said, that is a truism, that men currently make more than their partners, or at least it says in the study that I found, it's women make less than their partners. In this case, 47% of the time, 53% of the time, and then in marriages, the woman only makes more than the man 30% of the time.
The women should submit because we don't get paid equally. Is that the argument here?
No, Amanda, that's not that wasn't the argument. The argument that I was going to ask him is that part of his argument as to why men's names was what is kept is specifically that they make more, and that it's currently a truism on average that they do make more than their partners. So what I wanted to ask was, Right now, women's wages are rising. More women are graduating from college. Men are graduating from college less. A lot of American income, at least like in American side, I don't know about other like countries, is like very much correlated with your degree. So if more women are passing college, more women are graduating high school than men. If there's more men dropping out of college, more men dropping out of high school, eventually we're probably going to reach some sort of state where women are like approaching the earning potential of men. I'm not sure if it's going to like fully close the wage gap, but like we're going to get closer and closer. So then my question is, what the Fanatic was supposed to be, if we hit 51% of women out earning their partners, do we change the system? Because that was one of the blocks of like his question. And I'm gonna have hopefully I want to set up one to actually like ask this question because I would love to like see where that goes, because I think that's like a very, because if your basic building block is that men traditionally earn more than their partners, if that's no longer true, do you change that system? Because if it's about who earns more, then I would probably say just take I think someone made the meme earlier, and now I understand it more because I think Fanatic probably said what he said earlier, was you take the family name that has more wealth. And I feel like that's kind of like related to like who like makes more or like who like.
We get your point.
Yeah.
My fucking problem is the fact that it's tied within a power structure.
True.
The
Okay,
whole
like,
world
That's
is
my
tied
fucking
around the
point.
power structure.
We could try and fix the power structure, like
Exactly, which is what I said before he got all pissed off and then started calling me stupid and all this other shit.
You're not
You
stupid.
called everyone stupid. Don't worry.
The thing is, like
You're
Hans,
not fucking
you
special when
said
he
that.
tells you that.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Is you did say if you flip it to 51%,
Man,
would you
shut up.
change your? And he said no. And then he went back to the truism, and you're all making me trying to research. So I don't know. I feel like
well, like when we brought this up, when we brought this up earlier, right? When we brought this up, not this exact same thing with like maybe all of society, but like individual households. Like, what if the woman in this case is bringing home more money than the man? It's like there's still the interaction within the household, and a lot of decisions are still made in the direction of the man, knowing that just in case if something happens to her, he's going to be held responsible to some facet of like lifting the family up and lifting up that burden, right? So like if that part of society were to theoretically change, I can imagine him adjusting his answer or whatever. I don't know him at all, right?
I mean, if he was consistent, but here's the thing. I think he has more than just that. I feel like you have to like hit like multiple points. So I'm not gonna touch the women should submit to their husbands. I think we all can agree that's probably that's bullshit, obviously, right?
Why not?
Let's
talk about it.
So what I so all right, okay, like
no, hold on. That's not problematic if the women is. I think the issue with that being problematic is the fact that that's not always a conscious choice. Now, if it's a conscious choice, that's totally fine.
I would agree with
That's
that.
a fair point. That's a fair point.
In the same way that like if a man wanted a man wanted to submit to like his wife or his husband, or a woman wanted to submit to her wife, like
that's different. Submitting is not hitting.
No, submitting is.
No,
wait,
what?
No, wait. Amanda, like the word used was submitting, not hitting.
I can't hear anything. Everyone's talking. Sorry. What, Hans?
So Amanda, like apparently what he said was like was about like women submitting to their husbands, and you said like that's not a problem if they're okay with it. So I think like did you mishear hitting as submitting, or sorry, submitting as hitting in that like
maybe. Sorry, I thought you said hitting. Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So something that was brought up that was
We just heard. All we saw was Hans' forearms, and we're like, this man looking dangerous, bro.
What do you?
So something that was brought up. Hans brought up like a really good point. But I really want to reject the framework or the system that like Fanatic and Hans kind of laid forward. So like
I'm not putting it forward. I'm just understanding it so I
like,
can critique it. Like, just to be clear, I disagree with Fanatic. I was accepting the basic truism, which is technically correct. Like,
so it was my turn after Hans. Can I just like do my thing?
So
all right, sure.
After you,
don't I really want to listen, buddy. Like, I have to piss like so bad.
Oh my god!
Please, like, everyone donate to Prime or something. I'll be like back in 30 seconds. Holy shit! I need it. Oh god.
Okay. All right.
I'll be right back.
All right. So there was this argument that Fanatic made about it being really easy to change the last name and not a big deal. And I believe there's only one person in this chat who can actually attest to how difficult it is. So I'd love to hear from Amanda. How difficult is it to change your last name? I'm just curious.
It's not only difficult, it's really fucking like if you're a poor person, it's expensive. I mean, you have to go through different IDs, birth certificates. You're looking at like 8 different systems that are $20 to $100. And not only is it difficult to get to these offices, you have to go often in person. You have to wait and submit
The
these
queue
papers. So
time.
if you Yep. So now you can't do it online. You have to go to each of these offices, fill out the paperwork there, submit your IDs, pay for it. Not only do you have to do that, you have to wait to get certain paperwork back to go submit it to another office. It's fucking hard and it's annoying and it sucks.
So it sounds like he made a disparaging comment about how easy it was without doing the research, and it might have been a little bit of a gish gallop, if you will.
It is a gish gallop. I will add something even for us over here in Europe, right? I had a mistake in my passport when I wanted to travel. Problem with the ID and my last name. They cut part of my last name, thinking that it's two different people and it's one person. So I had to go and try to what you call it, get a new passport, get a new document, and it took me about 6 months with all the birth certificates, with all the different IDs that I had to bring it, and it's fairly easy over there. This is without a lawyer, by the way, without a consultant. It was tedious, very tedious, and I had to go to what you call it, the city where my father was born, to get some documents over there that they had archived, and documents of my grandfather who was born there, which the name is actually wrong, which were archived in a different city up in the north where it's really cold.
Wow.
Dude.
Yeah.
So I think that was
Madeline,
Fanatic's
are
point.
you done?
No, that's all I had. I just wanted
Okay,
to hear
so
like how difficult it actually was.
Topped off, and since you're saying you're going to leave soon, then I got to move down this list.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
okay.
actually dip. I
So-
gotta sleep or something.
Okay, bye.
Later, man. All right, so Hans, this is what I really want to fight back against. So you kind of like established this framework or system in which patriarchal marriage was like the de facto, right? And that like anything that we present that like that goes against that social norm is necessarily proposing a new system. However, I'm not advocating, and I don't think most people are advocating, except for maybe Mad Latin for a little bit there, that we fundamentally change, like abolish a system and like put in a new one. I think we're very specifically talking about expanding one part of the system to instead of women being the only ones pressured into changing their last names, that men and women can make the decision and like absent of societal pressure, which I don't think is like a fundamental change in the system of like last names being given by like lineage, passed down by lineage, right? It's a small change to the already existing system that just like adds the men next to women, right?
I would agree with most of your things with like one, like I'd say like extreme disagreement. Tell me if I lose you. So I would say, and this was again partially to like appeal to and like understand Fanatic's system when I was trying to parse like where I disagree with him like specifically. So I think there's a like absent other things, and I know that existing power structures, right? Women are currently like more oppressed in our society than men. I don't think anyone on this panel is going to fight that, right? I would say like on its face, a lineage passed down through men and versus through women, they're about the same in terms of like their societal utility. I would make a positive argument though, is that the system you're proposing, right, where it's like free to choose, is actually better because it solves certain problems that are currently in place because of like our patriarchal lineage system. So what I was like trying to build to this, but again, like, it's a really, really difficult panel to tell people like it's no one's fault, right? It like to Fanatic was, hey, like right now you say that the patriarchal system has a certain amount of utility, and that just like flat replacing it with say like a matriarchal system in terms of like lineage passed down, would probably have about the same utility. So what I think you're saying, and I would agree with you on this, is that having a system where it's not like cut and dry because we have other methods in place to like record lineages and stuff, that it makes more sense to have a like non-judgmental system where people can like literally choose which name they pick or whether they hyphenate or any of that stuff, and that is superior because of the benefits of like taking out explicit parts of patriarchy from our society. Because there's a lot of say like we talk like in terms of like men's issues, right? Like men like kill themselves and stuff more, right? There's like certain things, and then women are also like considered lesser than men, or like considered lesser partners like in unions and marriages, and those are things that we can actively work towards lessening and hopefully all like removing altogether. And I think your system that you proposed, which I absolutely agree with, is like succeeds at that, and there's utility in that. And that was the argument that I was going to eventually try to make to Fanatiq, saying like, hey, if it's like 50-50 in terms of like which partner's earning more, like regardless of their sex or their gender, right? Then like we know that like then that part's gone. And then like we say like, oh, like we used to like use this like remember lineages, but now we have like actual like online records and stuff that we can use. So that's gone, right? So you break down all the parts of utility that are necessitated by the old system while explaining the benefits of the new system. And then I think you would make a very strong argument as to why we should change. And I don't think you would have good responses to that beyond like appeals to tradition. And that's what I was trying to get to. So you make a lot of like excellent points that I absolutely agree with, but I wanted to make them through the lens of the utility based on like the systems, because that's what he was like largely talking about. Because essentially if you say like, oh, we have a patriarchal system and we should change it to a matriarchal system because like patriarchy bad, he's gonna like immediately recoil. And I was trying to like reach him where he was at, and it was like really hard because I know like Madlad wanted to go hard, and I respect that. Everyone knows that I apparently go super hard in debates, so like I completely respect that. But like that was kind of what I was going with when I was trying to get like certain things out of him.
I guess we were just both headed in the same direction. All right,
Yeah.
but it seemed
Mace,
like you were kind of
Dolphin, and
proposing it,
Hans, fucking from the top rope. We got him.
Yeah.
So,
all right, everyone.
If Fanatiq
it's
was
been a
still here,
pleasure.
he'd be destroyed. I'm fucking with you. Fanatiq, I would love to actually have a one-on-one at some point.
So-
if you're still listening.
Let's go to Azzy.
I generally don't see what the issue is with the patriarchal system of taking it's the English patriarchal system of taking the surname of the man at this point. Like, what is the net negative in taking the surname of the man?
It's
in
culture.
this system. Oh yeah, this is the culture.
That's it.
Literally, Spanish-speaking families will move and switch their
Copper.
surnames to the men's surname because they just
What
adhere
the
to the
fuck?
English patriarchal system that's in
No.
America.
No.
What do you mean no? What do you
Well,
mean
so,
no?
so some of them have like the mix between both of their family names, and
Yeah, they have a mix, but which one was usually last?
it depends.
Yeah, of course it
I think
depends,
the mix
but which
is
one is
both
usually
considered the last
last?
name. I think that they're both considered the last name.
They're
Like,
both
like,
considered
yeah.
the last
no
name, but
difference. There's no difference of like
they're
the last,
both
at least
considered the last name, but there is importance in which one came last.
No,
I don't know if there's
that-
importance there.
that's not. There's
So why
no
would-
importance to much of that.
So
It
why
could
would
be-
they
it
switch?
could be-
Why would they switch if they? Why switch the position of the surname when moving to America?
Because they feel like it.
Because of family ties. It doesn't to me, at least from what I have read, it doesn't matter if like both to them, like if they have the mix between like Alvarez, Esteban, Diaz, or whatnot, and like a lot of it is based off of family ties. It doesn't matter if they're Esteban or Diaz is like the first of that last name. To them, the matter is the whole title altogether.
That's a moot point because that if what you're saying is
not,
true
you're
about
not listening, seems like.
no, Dan, you literally interrupted me. Okay, but oh, great. Number one, you yourself said it's based upon the importance of family ties. So yeah, literally there was a significance that having the father's name came first, and then within there was a form. It's actually like a performer, like almost like a miniature kind of matriarchy where the mother would maintain the household, so her name kind of came last. There was a significance to that name. There was significance to the designation of the position of those names. There's a big importance to that. So just throw that away because they're both their last names is very disrespectful of culture. That's why I was trying to slow you down. Like, but go ahead. It's on the internet now.
Okay.
Much
next. Moving on. Zana.
Oh, I was just scratching my head. I did not raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh,
And I still want.
that was a long
like
time
we
ago,
never really
yeah,
engaged.
All right,
We
so
never really engaged with my point.
I'm definitely going to engage your point. But I'm gonna grab some other people, and we'll do that. All right, Azzy. Let's go to fucking Salsa.
Nathan.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I hear the lineage thing a lot when people are like, that's not a thing, right? Like at all. That's not really a concern when people like when you have your last name, how far back my lineage goes. Do people think about that?
Yeah, some
I don't care. I don't care about the
like-
lineage argument. I would care more. I think before like modern like tech and record keeping, it's easier to have like a uniform like naming system for the purpose of like record keeping. I think that like there is a utility in that, and I would say like at the beginning of history, if we had flipped the coin, like it seems like some societies like literally did do this, where it's like some societies did like pick up like matriarchal like name like going down, and then some picked up patriarchal. So I think like that's like legitimately like half and half. I mean, like maybe it's not like 100 like the exact same 50-50 in terms of like how many societies picked it up, but I would say it's
It always
probably
depends on the culture.
yeah, I would probably say it's pretty close to those things. So I don't think that's like inherently a bad thing, but I think we can say that like presently there are certain issues because of like our patriarchal systems. It hurts women, and also it hurts men, right? Like there's
yeah,
ways
but the
that like,
patriarchal system as a whole, but like when it comes down to specifically analyzing like last names, do you think like is it besides like the inconvenience factor and things like that, it's still hurting women?
So I
Yeah.
would I would say that it's part of a broader system that encourages a sort of like behavior both among men and among women. And this feels extremely nebulous. I try and stay away from these arguments. Like I try and like specifics. But like if we say like there are existing issues right now about say men not feeling manly enough and like men killing themselves, and like this was like an issue like during like depressions. Like men's suicide rates like skyrocket during like times of emotional turmoil because they feel like they can't like support their families. Like this is an extreme because they feel like they failed. So what I'm saying then is we can like see actual effects of a negative like of like the system that currently exists. And I think a really good point by Dolphin, he's gone now, was that I feel like we could there's a good argument to make that we can change our existing system to remove some of these negatives while like maintain the positives, because we have other methods of maintaining the positives based on record keeping and like all that sort of and medical history and all that sort of stuff. Because now we have like literal fucking computers that we can put family histories in, you know? So it's a lot easier to do that than before. So I think a lot of the arguments that I would say that fanatic and more traditional people would make is like are countered by modern tech, and we can see actual societal like problems caused by patriarchal systems that like are probably worth trying to fix in some regard. And if this is like one part of like a larger process of fixing that, we should probably push for it.
So then you would agree though, just the conversation just kind of happened because like I everybody kept on saying system, and I was thinking about the only like the actual parts of the system, because it's like if you just take the actual, if you just take, let me finish this. If you take the actual parts of the system, it does not benefit like men in any direction, correct? It's just how society like employs it, where everybody traditionally sides with the men, but like the government and the people creating that system and highlighting it, they're not actually caring on if it's like whose last name is kept, right?
Like you really, you guys really think like the counter arguments are nebulous as well, because you really think that, you know, as soon as like we're going to move towards parity? No, it's not going to move towards parity. People are not that balanced. It's going to just flip on its head. Which generally is
what? Are you arguing it's any like type of improvement because like it looks like bad in the matrix? Are you fucking kidding me?
Hans, don't pull a fanatic. Relax. Let me finish. You yourself said that women are through your studies, through your research, through your data. I believe it's the TD study, where men are not completing college or going to college at rates as women are. So therefore, what do you think is going to happen as this trend continues? Women are going to be the breadwinners. Therefore they're going to be more. And they're going to be there and in these CEO, in these corporate positions. Therefore, they will take over that lead. Or I'm just saying this is based upon the historical data of the patriarchy. This is just how the patriarchy has been.
So you're suggesting because we currently keep women down, that if we make it towards parity, women will take over, and that's a bad thing. I would say we should
I didn't
move
say
towards
that. I didn't say
that's kind of what you said.
If the default has been men pass down their last name, then why are women rising up? And
could you explain?
I just want to
no, stop. Shut up. No, stop. Azzy, shut the fuck up. Stop. Don't go on at me. Don't like that. Go get the fuck out. Stop it. Don't do that. Thank you. Yeah, Azzy, like, I'm trying to understand your point. Like, you you're saying that women there'll be some sort of flip, some sort of culture flip? Is that what's gonna
That's
happen?
exactly what's that. No, it's not that it's gonna. I'm just saying, based upon how things are happening now, or have happened, as we moved, like as men have moved through the corporate space, they themselves were able to make the rules and set the standard. But women are now the overall majority of the corporate of the financial space, of the education space, of just overall they're outpacing men at this point. So
Intellectually or in other ways?
It means like education, like in degrees.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Okay.
That was a meme. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was a bad one. You play too much
So-
league. Come on, bro. You
Okay.
gotta hang with,
all
hang,
right,
with
well-
us, hang with us normies.
Okay, I'm sorry,
but what I was saying, according to New Salsa's point, I didn't finish. According to what New Salsa just said, that looks like what the trend is going to be. So my question was, what is the overall net? What's the negative of the patriarchal system? That is it so? What is the hurt for besides the overall bad?
Sorry. We'll let Nathan
What's
give
the
it. We'll let Nathan give it a try. Nathan hasn't gotten a chance to talk, so Nathan, steady, no one.
All right, hello. So I initially came because I thought the title was interesting, and then I heard the arguing, and I thought that was interesting, and then I was like, "Hey, man, I see a lot of dudes on a panel about women, so I gotta come in there. I gotta play a substitution role. So don't worry, I'm here. I'm ready. I got the wig from Party City. Excuse me, Spirit Halloween. I'm armed. I'm ready to defend women. You see a bayonet? I got the reverse of a bayonet. Don't worry. But anyway, in all seriousness, the argument made, I think this is like way too much of an overcomplication. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I think about like last names. I think about it on like an individual level. So I would want to keep my last name as a male. Ultimately, if my wife wants to keep their last name, no big deal. We're still gonna get married because I'm there for the person. Now, as for our children, we're just gonna have to me and my wife will have to talk it out. I like the way Spanish people do things where they hold on 1 second. I like the way Spanish people do things.
You have a
sorry.
prop.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was responding to my mom.
Okay.
I like the way Spanish people do things where they have both names. I think that's really convenient. We were just talking about it earlier. There was a bit discussion of which order it goes. Usually father's first and then mother is the last of the names. But like when you're like famous and you want to just do two names, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. It's really not that complicated over there, it seems. And I really think that's the way it's gonna go. When it comes to the complications about like changing your last name, I understand that completely. Cause like when I was younger, my dad left. So we had to go to a variety of places to go through that process. And it'd be great if it was just much more simple. It's just like, okay, this dude didn't stay around, he's not loyal, so we'll stick with the mother's last name. There you go. So
that's usually how it happens anyway.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think
Nathan,
that
the
it's important to
question
make I think it's important to like make the process easier, and I don't think that there should be pressure on either side to choose whatever last name. It really has to be at a point in society where there's no pressure to choose a name. You just choose whatever you want.
And Nathan, that's great. But like, I guess like the basic question that I feel like most people would ask would be that most people after 2 generations would have like 8 last names. And then that would keep like going like ad infinitum. It would become like really, really weird. So I feel like
that is a joke in some like Mexican communities or
Right.
communities of having like is like Esteban Esbioto, like all these like crazy long last name. But
it's funny.
but people are like but don't take it like too seriously that they're going to have like 8 generations of last names. They probably will be very much sticking to maybe like within like 2 or within they think is reasonable.
Right, but but the what we think is reasonable is like the important part that I feel like we need to dig into, because I feel like if we just say, oh, like we just hyphenate, that works for literally 1 generation, and then we're back to the what do we do now? Because now, which hyphenated name gets to stick? Is it like the first part of like hyphenated name A? Is the second part of hyphenated name B? Is it like different for like different genders? Like at that point, it becomes like, I would say, more difficult. So we need to have a system, or if we're trying to like build a system, we need to build a system that works for more than one generation, and it can't be arbitrary as like to how it's picked. Because I feel like if we don't like put some sort of like system in place, then like it'll start like drifting towards one side or another. Like in the case of like hyphenated names, what if they keep both like the men's hyphenated names or the women's hyphenated names, right? And then at that point, that becomes like super fucking weird. And like, how do we deal with that?
Wait, why
So,
is
like,
it weird?
So,
Why
I
are
mean,
we why are we attributing these
No,
negative like
the way-
these awkward
Because
negative
Azzy, if we just create,
I got some other people. I gotta.
I'm really sorry. I'll mute myself.
No, no problem. You're doing fine. So Nathan, are you done your
Yeah.
point? Okay, then.
Yeah, so like the wait, may I respond to
I
him
thought you
real
were
quick?
done. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I don't think that we need the thing is I don't think we need a strict system, you know? I don't think we need to make sure that everybody has their mother's and father's last name. I think we just need to get to a point in society where it's just not that complicated of a manner, where there is not like that expectation, where it's a thing that's talked between two individuals. If they want to keep both last names, they should be able to do it. If they want to have their father's name, do it. Mother's name, do it. It's completely fine. And I think we're moving more towards that society because I mean, I know Gen X women, for example, that maybe adopt their husband's name, but they can still go by their name professionally. They still like going by their maternal name. And frankly, if I have a daughter, I really would prefer her keep my last name because my last name's cool as fuck, and I want to keep that name going for till the end of time. So yeah,
okay.
That's all my points.
Steady mate, then no one.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to check, like, and we could do like a show of hands. Does anyone think that there's like any actual utility? I know we brought up like, and we kind of took a little survey of like whether we thought the matriarchal or patriarchal systems are like even. But does anyone think that there's any actual like utility to this that isn't going back to some like, well, back in the day it used to be useful, like today in the 21st century? Do we think that there's any utility in having like a rule around the man's name being passed down?
Honestly, the easiest thing we could do, like, if we wanted to replace this
Okay,
system, we could we would literally, like, the way we could fix this is literally just like everyone gets a social like security number that like doesn't have that isn't like no like that isn't like connected to your bank information, and then just have a database of like XY3 is like the progeny of like D15.
So ridiculous.
Like a clone, like
But
a
Billy,
clone.
No,
I'm
but
saying
like,
it's
I'm saying is that,
the
like,
same level of utility
But,
in
like,
terms of
it's
like
like-
what we can do with modern technology.
but-
we are able to trace it without.
But that's
Yeah.
not how society works. That's the problem. Like Hans, like society doesn't make like these RAM solutions for this problem that's like not that big in the first place, right? Like
Right, which
it's
is
not-
why I really like Dolphin's idea, where it's like you can essentially you let like the partners pick, and whatever the partners choose.
Well, the partners
like,
can do that now. That's not the point. Like, but you can. Like, there's nothing stopping you from.
Well, the point is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
That's
whether.
no, but
if
I
you-
really like. Yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, say to me. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying I really like Dolphin's point as well, because I think that when we start, because he really brought up the good point of that the actual default, like you were saying, is not changing your name. You just get married and don't change your name over, then you that by default you will just not change your name. So the onus really is on the people who are advocating to continue this tradition of maintaining the patriarchal system, that need to really be the ones to advocate the benefits of it.
So
the default is doing nothing.
The
and keeping your name.
benefits, though.
And that's what I'm saying. We already kind of said that there weren't really any benefits today.
I kind of get why Fanatic was so frustrated, because it's like no one literally listened. He listed all those benefits, right? Like he's like spent a lot of time doing that. It's like, oh well, it's the benefit. Like, well, then you
But that's
should
why I
list these
asked.
things. But like it was already done. Like we've already covered this. Like we've already covered all
Everybody
of
just
that.
said that they. Everyone
Right,
just
so-
said right
so-
now
so-
that they don't think
Can I-
today. I
I
can
might have
acknowledge
missed it.
that there might have been benefits before. Yeah, I understand all of those benefits, but that's what my frustration was with Fnatic as well. Is that just because it was beneficial previously,
He didn't
mean that
say
today.
just previously. He talked about the benefits of now. He talked about all of that.
What are they?
Right? Like, yeah,
Yeah, I
talked
mean,
about
I
like
just
what
asked
what
everybody, and
benefits? I may have
everybody
missed
said
it.
that today they don't acknowledge that there's any actual intrinsic value of having this.
not
Like
everyone.
we can show, like,
Zero.
hey, who thinks that right now? Like we can just take the hands right now. Who thinks that there is no value and that it's like literally arbitrary? Like, and we can use technology to replace all of the value.
So study mate, important distinction. There is value, but it's not any more like value than having a matriarchal system. And then I would say that there is more value in the system that Dolphin proposed about having like a change
Choice.
system because of like the improved social like systems that I like described earlier. So if like even from an argument of utility, I think it's important to distinguish between two systems having equal value than saying that our current system has zero
Hans,
value.
you didn't
And I-
describe any of this. Your points don't back that
Dolphin
up.
literally did, and I agree with him. Holy fuck! Do I have to say it again? Like
No, because I literally said
so-
based upon your data and the points you brought that they don't support they don't support parity. They're not going to support parity.
Okay, so like the benefits of being within a family unit, right? The benefits of the identity that's passed down. Now
today,
yes,
what does
today, yes,
I wanna hear those
today,
benefits real quick.
What does being in a family unit have to do
hold
today?
on, holy shit, fuck.
Oh.
Today, I'm giving you the value. Holy shit, listen. This is what Fanatic was upset about. You're not listening. Just fucking listen, and you'll fucking find out. Holy shit. Oh my god. Again,
I'm listening.
Yes, today.
No.
Please don't. Not now. Thank you. So yeah, being within a family unit, and having taken pride in that unit, right? Being identified through that unit. Like you can, there are other ways to do that, obviously, right? But if you advocate for a system in which, first of all, no one changes their name, then that means there's an additional issue with the kid and knowing what name that person's going to be. Now, I guess that could have a completely different name as well. But these things, like our society has already acclimated to these things. So, like, I don't think it's that you have to prove that we have to why the system should stay in place, rather why it should actually be changed, because the system works. Like if you're saying it's a problem with like your names being passed down, or I'm sorry, names being difficult to change, well then we can change that easily. Like we could just change the process. I didn't think that was actually a very good point. Just saying, well, yeah, it's really hard to change your name back after a divorce. Well, we could just change that. We could streamline that process. It's fucking easy. It's fucking easy, right? So like, why would we change our family, the system as it stands, that works for everyone, that people understand, people already know these things, right? Like, why would we change that for anything else? Why would it, and why I don't understand Nathan's point either, saying that I think it's going to go to like the hyphenated thing. That's like in American, like Western society, that's not going to happen. That's literally not going to happen. That's always going to happen.
Literally the only time I ever seen a hyphenated the literally only time I ever seen is like the woman has achieved some type of social standing, or there is like a separation or divorce. That's the only time I've really ever seen a trend of the hyphenated name.
Yeah.
She has a position, she's a teacher, she's a CEO, she's a businesswoman. She doesn't want to change her name so that she doesn't mess up, her business, because people can still identify her. Like, I don't even think Serena Williams goes by. She married, and we still call her Serena Williams. She didn't take, she has a certain standing. So it's all about social status.
Can I address the
this is why I don't really. No one really engaged with the point. I said, what is the benefit of this? Well, of parity, and what's the benefit of? Because we're never gonna get to parity. We're not that balanced. But we're never. But your points don't support it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
we're not.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
I already explained why.
And I can explain it again.
So Nathan, address my.
All right, I'm gonna need new points then.
Yeah. So I didn't hear when I was listening to Fanatic speak him list those benefits. So I appreciate you listing them off because I think they're important to respond to. You guys heard my opening statement. I don't really think there's too much dramatic change needed. There just needs to be a more broad societal moving away from pressuring mainly women to choose the husband's last name. Pretty much, if a person is chill choosing their husband's last name, there's zero problem whatsoever. I'm not really demanding parity. I'm not demanding
1 second.
start
Just lost my
adopting.
feed.
Okay, I'm not demanding that we demand or we implement only wife names, but what I'm saying is, I think that it is unappealing to a lot of women, especially young women, when they're told like, okay, you're gonna get married, part of your identity is gonna be removed, and it's gonna be your husband's identity. The name you've grown up with is not gonna be your name no more. You're gonna be, instead of blank so and so, you're gonna be blank so and so too. You know,
I got a
but
little
like,
confused. I'm sorry.
yeah, you're gonna be a different last name essentially. I think it's just more comfortable, and again, to make the process for changing names more efficient, plus just more comfortable for getting into the idea of marriage for younger people, to not force people to adopt a name. That's all I gotta say, and it's not like that's all.
But no one's being forced. So that's the thing.
No
Like
one's
we
being
have.
I think okay,
You
yeah.
have.
I agree that no one's. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No.
My
Sorry.
bad.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that no one's being forced at like gunpoint, but I still think that societal pressure is there. Like for example, if you're gonna marry like a person with a more conservative family and you're a woman and you're like, I kind of want to keep my last name. I don't think my husband needs to change his name, but I just kind of want to keep mine. That might cause problem in the family. And there's no policy prescription to do anything about that. But all I can talk about is like what individuals can do, and individuals should be not reacting like Fanatic reacted to the idea that women are changing their names or not changing their names, excuse me. But that's much more on the individual, not a policy prescription.
Yeah.
But this really doesn't defeat
You're done?
anything that Fanatic was saying. This really doesn't defeat.
Well,
We're
okay.
basing this off of
If I were to
the
recall what
traditional
I,
patriarchal.
if I recall what I heard him saying, he was saying that there's like he was equating it to like abolishing the institution of marriage or like changing it. He was like, oh, there's a problem, you abolish it. No, I'm not saying to abolish it. I'm saying that women can choose whatever the fuck name they want in the same way I can choose whatever name I want.
But the
I guess
the Western the Western tradition of marriage is patriarchal. Like that's what this is where we live. Unless you're
could
elsewhere.
Be equal. Why can't it be equal?
What do you mean why can't it be? We're not in a well, if you're gonna go off like the quantitative valuing to trying to equate the value of a last name to another last name, yeah, there's no quantitative, difference. But if you're going off a qualified, that's what is this a qualitative or a quantitative? Differencing. Quality of your last name is we live in a patriarchy where men have the positions. If you go to a more conservative family, the men were the breadwinners. Like the men had the standing. This is why I also
that's changing as well.
I understand
the
that.
idea of breadwinners,
Well,
like
this is why I said to Hans. This is why I said to Hans. Your points are pushing towards if that trend continues and men do not get into positions that will put them into positions of power. Who you think are going to take up those roles? It's going to be women, and it's not going to be at 50-50. Because the
wait.
I was directly asked. I would like to respond,
real quick.
please. Okay,
I just want to respond real quick, Hans. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So the point being made, I think you're way overcomplicating it. First of all, I don't think when people are choosing last names, they're like, how much money is my partner making?
Yes, they are.
No, that's not fucking happening. No.
Yes, they are.
Most cases, they're like, okay, it's my husband's name. I'm going to go with it. Exactly. Yeah. It's my husband's name. I'm going to go with it. At the end of the day, if the expectation is that because my partner makes more money than me, I have to adopt her name, no, absolutely not. I like my name. I'm going to stick with it. So I'm not advocating for a system where we just reverse the roles. If you're claiming that, and I don't think this is what Hans was arguing for, but it sounds like you're claiming he was arguing that.
No, I'm not. I'm saying his point. He was arguing one thing, but the data he brought up doesn't support his points. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So ultimately, for me, the only argument I'm making is that individuals have the right to choose their name and should not be pressured by anybody else on the outside. I mentioned that I would want my daughter to keep my last name. Ultimately, if she wanted to keep her husband's last name, that's not my choice. That's completely fine. The idea that because you're the breadwinner, you get to have the name, you get to have the title is fucking silly. Money
That's how it works. That's how it's always been, and that's probably
Okay.
how it's going to be because
Well,
women
okay, if we
literally,
were, wait,
women,
if we were in a society,
women,
if we wait,
though.
if we were in a society where it's always been the case where you throw rocks at random strangers behind the head, then like I think we should change that.
We
Like
do.
we don't have to adopt things just or continue to adopt things just because it's always been a certain way.
But no, I'm not saying we're going to continue to do it. I'm just saying this is how people have tended to act. We're not some balanced society. This some technoverse. Well, like this is what I'm saying. Hans was saying we're gonna balance out society with technology.
Oh,
And
that's
well,
literally
every
oh
time
my
you
God,
said every
dude.
time you brought up
Can
Facebook,
I please?
every time you brought
Like
up
people are
Facebook,
literally talking about my position.
you
and,
can
like,
go
and now you're saying,
afterwards,
and now
bro.
you're
You
speaking
can,
about it incorrectly.
Hans, what's your
Holy
position?
shit.
if I'm doing a straw man, you can go afterwards. But literally, I'm just
Oh my
trying to
God.
respond to
Oh,
Nathan.
let me
You can
go ahead and
after.
and keep straw manning
You
me
can
before
go
I
after.
can
Nah,
respond. Because then we're not gonna have a conversation. Because then you
No,
Oh
you
my
can
God! Oh my
go
God! Oh my God!
after him. It's okay.
Because we're gonna argue about what to do next. So finish your point, and then you can respond.
Literally, well, from what I've taken from Hans's points, if what I'm saying, because this is my perspective on his points, all right. If I'm saying it differently, okay, that's just how we just analyze the data. That's fine. Literally, what I'm saying is we're not that socially balanced. A lot of the times, especially currently, women did not want to change their names. I've already said this because they have achieved a social strata and they didn't want to affect that strata. They wanted to keep their name because they've already established a business, and if they change their name, that might affect their, that might affect their profit. That might
I
affect
don't think
their
that's their
and there's
motivation
also
either.
a personal,
Sorry.
there's also a personal, personal thing in this too. This is my name. I built it up. There's a lot of ego in the name. Like we're really trying to act like this is some, Facebook is going to solve everything. And, we got, ancestry.com, which isn't really efficient for Black people. I just want to say that. But, go ahead, Hans. If that's all, I'll end on that.
Hans,
Facebook ain't gonna solve everything. Excellent example of my position. So my position was what Dolphin said, and I agreed with. So here's the thing: there are certain problems with our patriarchal system, and right now, the concept which Fanatiq brought up as a reason for why we should keep it is that men are currently considered the breadwinners, and I think we can all agree that there are certain problems that come from that, both in the agency of women and the security of men and how they respond to that system. So I would prefer and start pushing for a system where those two explicit problems don't exist, and I can directly tie those to existing patriarchal issues. I don't think that's a crazy position.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
So it's different than Facebook will solve everything. Thank you so fucking much. I'm gonna keep going now because there's more to this. So anyway, the other issue is that I agreed that right now, and StudyMate has said this as well, is that we don't have a lot of good reasons as to like why names are patriarchal or matriarchal, because those two have equivalent value in terms of utility, and the system that we're proposing is higher in utility because it doesn't have the negative utility of the existing oppression of men and the oppression of women and the problems that plague men. So we can use technology to create a system that is more that has more utility than what we had before. And so then that's what the point is.
Isn't that what I said?
No,
If,
I don't think
if
it is.
maybe
I
the
literally
word,
said
maybe the
Facebook
word
would
came
solve
off.
everything.
Look, okay, all right.
And
But
like,
I
we
literally
mean about it. Like,
got it.
if I can
Hold
respond.
on. No. We don't have time. We don't have time. So look. I don't care. Don't have time. No one. And then Dan, and then Izzy. Quickly.
Thank you.
Okay.
I said
Okay,
no.
it's my turn.
Hold on. I said no one, then Dan, then Izzy. No one first. Go on.
I think Dan will be out, be in like 10 seconds. So apparently, most of what I wanted to say already Hans said it. It's the technological advancements that we have right now and the server capacity that we do. And I'm a computer engineer, 100% agree with you, right? I love technology. The capacity of the servers that we have, we can legit put all the lineage of the people present up to like the 5th generation previously in one server in China or in the United States or Europe or whatever, and have such lineage with the whole medical record. I think, what was his name? Fanatiq said about medical data regards of that. you can add such diseases that could be genetically transferred into that said database. And that's one of the advantage. Having your name is purely a culture thing. It's value. It does not have any value. I think that was my point. Thank you.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, for sure, I do agree. I completely agree. No one, you brought up exactly to I think what me and Hans have been trying to say is like it's simply just all about culture than to just going for like patriarchy. We have learned to understand that much of these systems now could be exactly less expressed to just simply just their last names and whatnot. We can learn to what other people are doing. I think the first person notable is Prince. He had it instead of he changed his name to a symbol or something like that.
My God, bro.
You would say that as a...
I knew he said that before.
You would say
I'm
that
gonna start calling
as
myself XJ9, the teenage robot.
You would say that as a... I'm sorry. I want to make sure I understand your point, Dan. Are you saying that as a solution?
Sorry,
like
someone displayed the equivalent of like the Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, but as to other systems, it just as given to as their whole point together talking about giving to our last names to whatnot. It's up to the person who is marrying, the couple agree upon, and it's really to the matter of like if you care about your legacy to being this her name or not or different. I'm more up to the opinion on their decision than to forcing upon a patriarchal society. That's my position.
Okay, Izzy.
Towards the sort of lineage tracking stuff, I'm also a software engineer. I totally think like first name, last name is totally not the kind of primary identifier as far as that. There's lots of different ways to track all of that. I think that's totally a different issue at all. As far as
Numbers
like taking
on a
last names and
spreadsheet
stuff.
for me at this point. Most of you are.
I knew he was this is the trend. This is what Prime. They're literally gonna start calling themselves XJ9 and what did what's his name?
Literally, no one will do that.
Wait,
this is what Hans wants,
wait,
bro.
Wait, that's the meme thing. Is what my life as a
This is
teenage
literally
robot.
what
That was
Hans
a
said
banger
before.
fucking TV
Nah,
show,
bro. This is
I
literally
fucking
what I was
love
trying
that
to.
show.
This is why Con Ed did not put the engineers in charge.
No one. And here's the problem with this technological solution is that society literally never works like that. To solve, I mean, like I think, I mean, in terms, like I think in Japan, they have like a really complicated, like or so not complicated, but like a detailed like listing of lineages, right? So I imagine it's digitized. So what you're talking about probably already exists there, right? It's from my understanding, actually, this is a thing that they already exists. But like society doesn't like address issues like we can't address climate change. Like that's not a thing that we can do, right? Like as it stands, the U.S. fails to address climate change. So when I hear solutions to frankly minor issues like this that involve like, well, let's create a whole technological infrastructure and then that'll do it. That's not how we operate. That's not how we operate in the world at all. So like our solutions have to be based on something that's at all possible. So if you think it's okay to think that the patriarchal system is like wrong or that it's overall not beneficial to society, that's fine, right? But like the response can't be like, let's create a whole like a technological infrastructure to deal with this, because that's not how we work. You all know that's how we work. If you look at Congress, like that's how would that ever happen? And why would society ever move to that system? Why would society ever just decide to stop using this whole patriarchal name pass? I don't know the name, how to name this. I don't know, passing names through the male side.
Patriarchal like lineage system, like we
patriarchal lineage system. Okay, yeah, sure. Like why would they do that? Why would they change? Because that's the default. Isn't saying that like, oh well, we'll just keep our names. The default is to go with the status quo. And the status quo is what it is now.
Right. We need to give a better system than what currently exists. And I think I've started like the explanation for like the one that I provided, and we can like hash out like whether like we think that's enough. Because again, like marginal utility matters, right? Like if we can change a system to be 1% more effective, but it costs like a bajillion dollars, and like it's only 1% effective, like more effective every year, then we'd probably say, hey, that's not like effective. And I don't have the information on this, but I would say this is probably at least like worth looking to in terms of like a conversation about like what like we gain by changing the system to like the the gender specific lineage system compared to the patriarchal one. I think anyone saying that we should just like Lamau switch to like the matriarchal one, I feel like that's kind of unserious because like that's not really like talking about the issue that like we really seem to care about. But like I'm like I'm okay with like at least like having that specific conversation. Oh, sorry, I'm okay with having like the change system to like to
I want to comment on your statement.
Okay.
No,
I'm cool with changing us to the like non-gendered system because I think there are like legitimate benefits to that. I think just like flipping from like patriarchal to matriarchal like doesn't have like enough utility like to like warrant the switch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I would agree.